Thanks for staying. Let's settle for the news this morning. And in our first story, the Center for Plant Medicine Research has announced that it is working on a herbal medicine that could cure COVID-19. Speaking at the first Oku Ampofo Memorial Conference organized by the center in Accra, projects coordinator Dr. Kofi Buedu said the project was almost complete. There's more in the story.
The Center for Plant Medicine Research, previously known as Scientific Research into Plant Medicine, Mampo Ekuapim, was established by the government of Ghana in 1975 as a result of the dream and vision of Dr. Oku Ampofo. The center aims to make herbal medicine a natural choice for all to gain the highest recognition for research and development of herbal products that meet standards. Through innovative scientific research and productive partnerships, the center has made giant strides in the field of herbal medicine. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the center started research in finding a herbal cure for COVID-19 and has finally announced that it is almost through with the project.
This whole study is to put up a full preclinical study that we can put together an investigative brochure and submit to the FDA and get license to conduct clinical trials on the product. And if we are successful with the clinical trial, then we can have the product registered for treating the disease that is COVID-19. So basically that is what we are doing. We are through basically about 60-70%. And like I said, this work is being supported by the COVID-19 National Trust Fund.
He added that the product, Iminim, is available on the market as an immune booster.
I said from the beginning that it's been already registered for immune support. Okay, so it's in the market for immune support. But you also know that presently there isn't specific drugs for treating COVID-19. So if you have COVID-19, you can go to the market, get it. Just as you get, say, azithromycin. Azithromycin is not registered for COVID-19, yes. But if you have COVID, you could try and see if it works. So the same way you could try this product if it works. The fact is, it is safe in humans. So you can repurpose it for now and see. But the work we are doing is to be able to gather enough data to register it specifically for treating COVID-19.
Executive Director for the Center, Professor Alex Asasi, indicated that government could improve the country's economy by investing in plant-based medicine.
Plant medicine is key to the development of this country and must therefore be well supported and promoted. First, about 70% of Ghanaians depend on herbal medicine for their primary healthcare needs. It is also worth noting that the global market value for herbal products are increasing and expected to reach about $5 trillion by 2050. Ghana can derive huge economic benefits from the sale of herbal products. Plant medicine can also become an integral part of medical tourism because it is our cultural heritage, and herbal medicines are also known to be effective. There are also great prospects for youth employment regarding farming of medicinal plants for local users as well as the international markets.
Jesse Sewabuafo's report for JoyNews.
Well, the Bono East Regional Health Directorate is spearheading the integrated antenatal care project to address high maternal mortality rates. Deputy Director in charge of Public Health, Dr. Paulina Clara Apia, at a ceremony in Kintampo to start the project, noted that the move would go a long way to help improve access, quality, and the continuity of antenatal care, that is ANC, to pregnant women, as well as reduce maternal infections in 5 selected underserved districts across the region. And Asabit has more.
Antenatal care has the potential to play a pivotal role in ensuring positive pregnancy outcomes for both mothers and their newborns. A critical component of all ANCs is teaching women to recognize the major complications that account for the majority of preventable maternal and newborn deaths. with studies attributing between 10 to 20% of maternal deaths to infections during ANC visits. A national launch of the Integrated Antenatal Care Project has taken off in the Bono East region to address early and easy diagnosis of maternal infections. Dr. Paulina Clara Pia is the Deputy Director in charge of Public Health at the Regional Health Directorate.
We are indeed privileged to have our stakeholders and our partners here to witness the national launch of this project, which is going to address early and easy diagnosis of maternal infections that cause newborn infections, one of the major causes of newborn death.
The project will be carried out in some 5 underserved districts of the Bono East region to help improve access to quality point of care diagnosis to the most deprived parts of the region.
The project is being carried out in 5 of our 11 districts, and they were selected based on one, the district being an underserved district in terms of health facilities, personnel, maternal infections, and then also the district that has a high ANC registrants got selected. So we selected 5 of our 11 districts. So far, 67 facilities made up of 44 chip compounds, 16 health centers, and 7 public hospitals will provide the point of care diagnostics for pregnant women at the ANC.
Former Deputy General of the Ghana Health Services and Technical Advisor for PATH Ghana, Dr. George Amofadi, that the project will, among other things, build the capacity of health workers, which would in turn help improve the services they render to their clients.
There are quite a few interventions that we have introduced. One is to provide point of care like diagnostics, so that the midwives and the labs in the facilities will be able to test either urine samples or any of those things at the point of service. The second is to build the capacity of the health workers, all of them, from the doctors, nurses, midwives, laboratory staff, in how to prevent infections during pregnancy.
Regional Coordinating Director George Padmore Mensah on his part reiterated the ICC's commitments towards ensuring that the project is a success.
What we are saying is that as a region, we also monitor the project to make sure that it sees fruition. It is very painful and very sad for a pregnant woman to lose a life and baby after traveling a 9-month journey. And we believe that no woman should die whilst giving life. And so that is why we are fully committed to this project, and we are going to fully support this project.
Reporting for JoyNews, Anas Sabit, Kintampo.
Let's head to the Ashanti region, where most hospitals in Ghana do not have support for hearing and speech-impaired people. In most cases, there are no sign language translators on standing by to aid the hearing and speech-impaired patients in accessing healthcare. This has prevented many from visiting health facilities because they cannot effectively communicate their ailments to health professionals, and the health professionals cannot also communicate their expert directions to them. Fortunately, some students from the Computer Science Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology have developed an app called SignTalk, which seeks to solve this problem. On Tech Thursday, Love FM's Kwesi Debra speaks with the developers Dankwa Kwabena Dakumenu and Nana Ajamandria.
SignTalk seeks to solve the problem by being a first step initiative to bring the hearing and speech impaired community back into society by bridging the deeply rooted communication gap. It does this by providing features that allow speech to sign language translation and sign language to speech translation.
Now you realize that in our society here in Ghana, there is a stigmatization of the deaf and the mute community. That's led to the isolation of these people from society in general. Now this is as a result of this communication gap that exists between this group and society in general. Mainly because the deaf and the mute community, or deaf and mute people, communicate via sign language, and then the rest of us communicate via speech. Now, most of us really don't know sign language and are not motivated to learn sign language because these people, that's the deaf and the mute, are generally isolated from society. So no one knows any deaf or mute person that they would learn the sign language and communicate with, and therefore they are not motivated to learn it at all. This is the landing page of the SignTalk website, and then it has two main views, the doctor view and the patient view. So when you go, if you're a doctor, you select the doctor button, and then it takes you to the doctor view. If you're a patient, you select the patient button, and then it takes you to the patient view. So let's start with the doctor. Now, the doctor taps on the doctor button, and then it takes the doctor to the login page where the doctor has to sign in first before they are allowed to utilize SignTalk. Okay, so I have an account created already, so I just tap on the login. Right. Now, SignTalk has some of the features of, for example, video conferencing apps like Zoom embedded in it. Right. So it demands access to, or demands a device that has a camera to take the video of the person signing, or for the doctor to see the person on their computer, right? So he has to give access to the camera of the device, so he has to allow it. Once they allow it, the camera feed is displayed on the site. Now this is the doctor view. Now the patient, on the patient page too, the patient must allow access to their computer's camera, and then they too can see a video feed of themselves, right? Okay. Now, to start the translation from sign language to allow that, as part of the protocols of the app, the doctor must start a meeting first. So it's like Zoom, where there's a primary person that starts a meeting and then other people join, right? So because the doctor has signed in, he can create a meeting by tapping on the Start Meeting button. Once he does that, a meeting ID is generated for the meeting, and then it can copy that and send that to the patients for the patient piece. So we copy this button, this meeting ID. Now, if the patient wants to join the meeting, they have to enter their name and then the doctor ID. That is the meeting ID that doctor got, right? So we will do that. Let's do an arrangement. Okay. Yes, and then they enter the doctor ID, and they select Start Call, right? Okay. Now, immediately they do the Start Call, the doctor receives the video feed from the patient, and then the patient will receive the doctor's video feed displayed on their view as well. And then you can see that the doctor's name has been displayed here, okay? And then the patient's name too has been displayed on the doctor view. All right. Now, to demonstrate the speech to sign language, right? So if the doctor says, and this is the button for the speech, that's when you are using it in Chrome. But the doctor types, "How are you doing?" and then sends it to the patient. You see, on the patient's view, a video will be showed of what the doctor typed, so that they know exactly what the doctor is saying in sign. So when I do to paint, yes, it's detected it.
Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Let's stay in the Ashanti region, and coffin and casket manufacturers at Asafo in Kumasi are lamenting the high cost of raw industrial materials. The producers say they are frustrated over the high prices of significant materials like fillers, nails, pine, saw, and fabrics to line coffins. The extra expenditure in production is pushing the manufacturers to increase the prices of caskets to stay in business. Clinton Yabwa has more in this report.
The economic changes of the country has had a toll on almost every aspect of Ghanaian lives and almost every aspect of Ghanaian businesses. Today's conversation features manufacturers of coffins. How has the economic changes affected their life?
With inflation rising high, coupled with fuel and utility tariff increases, local businesses stand on the death toll of the economic crisis. Ejapia, who has about 30 years of experience in the production of caskets and coffin, says he is compelled to increase prices of his products.
na adwuma yɛ mu no first and yɛ adwuma no ɛnti sɛ ɛnɛ adwuma na yɛ ne deɛ bla yɛ adwuma no gu sɛ no man boy yes I den no and then he says
I was an apprentice in 1992 but now I run my own business. The fabric we used to decorate the casket I bought for 200 cedis on Friday. I was told today to pay 240 Ghana cedis. I couldn't buy, so I had to come home to solicit the remaining. Things are expensive. I would also not sell them at a reduced price. All manufacturers here have come to a consensus to increase and stick to one price, latest by next week.
We made the new crowd, the other 15 million, but I say, Obama for 28 million, and Yadia, Mayday,
Marvin Kwame, who has been in the business for 3 years, says patrons are complaining about the new prices.
Our work has become affected. I used to buy this flyer at 20 Ghana cedis. Currently, I buy it at 230 Ghana cedis. I used to finish 2 coffins a day. Buyers keep complaining because we scared them with the price. Starting next week, the price of coffins will increase.
Other producers like Akwisia Mwakoyeboa, who has been in the casket manufacturing business for 25 years, says he's recording low patronage due to the new prices. He has called for the government's support and intervention, especially in their access to wood.
With a high increase in materials, we have also increased our goods and it's affecting patronage.
Double 100%. Yeah, 100 and a dose my Diana Cockroach been taught. But then no one met on Cransuniska or Banusu, but no one out of and Ma Dipana over Tono, who he has our tenso. But then no man was out here. First of Bonka 1 city, and then I'm 2 city. First of Bonka 10 million, and I'm 20 million, and 2 poor, so 2 money. And many pounds. Yes, I want to me yet.
Clinton Yabua's report for JoyNews.
And in the northern region, aggregators and farmers of soya beans want government to suspend the ban on the exportation of soya. They say government should regulate the product, know the quantity that should be retained in the country, and how much should be exported instead of impose an outright ban. There's more in this report put together by correspondent Martina Bugri.
Poultry farmers last year raised concerns over shortage of soya bean, forcing government to place a ban on the export of the product. But aggregators and farmers of soya bean are raising concerns. They have called on government to review the ban. Addressing the media in Tamale, Secretary of the Group, Chief Executive Officer for Agro-Fredina Enterprise, Felix Sai, appealed to government to regulate the market instead of an outright ban.
Last year, the government put a ban on the soya beans, which really interrupt our business. Most of us took loans from the bank with high interest, and it was difficult for us to pay because as soon as the government brought the ban on the soya beans, the foreign buyers stopped buying the soya beans, and we ran into huge losses because we bought some soya beans at 500 and 500 cedis plus per bag, 100 kg. Now, what it means that at the time the government put the ban on the soya beans, we have to then now the same soya beans that we bought at 550, we have to sell it for 400 cedis, which we lose a lot. And this year, a lot of people have gone into soybeans farming because of the cost of fertilizer and other issues. Now, we are pleading with the government so that it hold on with the ban and look into this export issue. The government also needs foreign exchange to boost our economy. If we listen to the cry of the aggregators and the farmers that we are crying, we farm a lot, we have a lot of soya beans. All we need is that the government should put measures and know how much soya beans that we are exporting as Ghanaians, and then how much we need for the local market.
He said the poultry industry, which is the sole market for their produce, do not have the financial muscle to buy.
Because soya beans in Ghana, it is only for the poultry farm industry that they consume a little, not much, a little for the poultry industry. The collapsing of poultry farm industry is not because of soya beans is not available. Soya beans is available a lot, but the thing is that they don't have money to buy. There's a company I know in Kumasi that I supply soya beans and maize for them. For some years now, they are not able to buy soya beans for me because most of their creditors are not able to pay them. They come for the soya beans and they don't pay. They come for the feed, they don't pay. So Raket Farms is on its knees now as I speak with you. It's not because of the price, but because poultry farmers took their feed and they refuse to pay. And this is the challenge.
That is all for the news, but stay with us because up next we get into the papers with Kina Likimani. The news review up next. Stay. Well, thank you very much for joining us for the news review. Time now to get into that, and we'll be joined by Programs Manager for Odikro, Kina Likimani. Kina, it's good to see you again. A very good morning to you. I think you would have to unmute.
Yes. Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear. Good to have you.
Thank you. Same here.
Great. So let's start off the discussion. Most definitely we're getting into the papers, but I'd like to find out from you, since we're going to be talking today on the show about that latest Global Info Analytics report on the current president's speeches, especially those on the economy, and the former presidents as well. What do you make of what you heard last Sunday from Nana Addo Dankwa-Akufo-Addo, our president, on the state of our economy? What were your quick, brief takeaways?
I was stunned by the audacity to come in front of Ghanaians and say absolutely nothing. To come in front of Ghanaians and to gaslight us, to tell us things like money doesn't like noise. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Who doesn't talk up their money? When he was in opposition, they all said former President Mahama was completely incompetent. That speech was, it's like it was filled with half-truths and incomplete pictures. It was incredible that they actually pre-recorded a speech in which the president took no responsibility. So it's not like I expected much, because we know by now we know who and what our president is, but I was still stunned by the audacity of it all, the uncaring of it all, the stance. It's like in Ethiopia. Yeah.
Wow. So when you mention gaslighting, I find it interesting because more or less you are purporting he was misled. He just came and read something, and that was it. You were obviously not enthused, but was it that
He was
bad?
not. No, he was not misled. Gaslighting is when you
So he came to mislead.
Yes, it was incomplete. You can't tell us. I mean, you can't bring in things like, look, we are talking about the economy of the great nation of Ghana, and I like to say great because I love my country. We are talking about the economy. We are spiraling of the economy of this great country. And we haven't been here since independence because we are obviously not being managed. So I am stunned I was actually stunned by referring to things like WhatsApp videos or whatever, bringing in French. Who the hell cares about a French proverb? I mean, if you're giving a speech to Ghanaians and you have to reach all the way to France to give us a proverb, I mean, honestly, people, honestly.
Well, Sikampedede, and interestingly, it was trending on social media. L'argent n'aime pas le bruit, Sikampedede, and so many things. Okay.
And that is what I mean about the gaslighting. It was designed, when people are looking, unfortunately, and I'm not mincing my words, he is our president. And so whatever he says, people will take it, not necessarily in terms of believing, but they will engage with it. And the president and his PR people, because this is a very it's the most PR'd government we've ever had in Ghana. They understand that people will engage with the leader's words, even if we do not like the leader's words. So that whole French proverb and Sikampedede and all of that was designed to get us engaging with it. While the next day, people still went out and we were still gobsmacked because, let me use the English because these people are very impressed by English. We were still gobsmacked by the fact that prices were still high. People still went out and were confronted by high transportation prices. But the thing about this situation is that you can't PR it. The time we are beyond the PRing of our economy. I mean, the effects are here. So he just filled our time for I don't know, what is an hour?
Just about 30 minutes. But let me quickly
30 minutes.
Let me quickly run this by you then. We're all reeling from the prices of fuel. Diesel is now 23 cedis. That's outstandingly. That's almost 10 cedis above the minimum wage. Then you have petrol.
And please, when you say things like that is 10 cedis above the minimum wage, we need to pause here. I mean, it's now the minimum wage is now like bread. It's more costly than the minimum. We need to actually pause where we are. Don't just make statements like that and we move on. It's shocking, but please go on.
I was going to top up that petrol is almost, so diesel is almost 10 cedis above the minimum wage. Petrol at 18 cedis is almost 5 cedis above the minimum wage. Mr. President made mention of the fact that they're going to try to source cheaper fuel. And I don't know how optimistic you are about that, because looking globally, all countries are reeling from the same problem. So we do not know where exactly they're going to source this, but it's cause for hope, isn't it?
It is worrying, but it is worrying, but also on brand for this government to tell us that we are actually now going to import. That's what they are saying. They are going to import more importation. He said nothing about toll. In his 6 years, any president who comes to Ghana to lead this country, if we cannot get our own refineries running, it's like what? I mean, why do we have leadership? These are chronic problems we need to solve. But instead, no, they have actually expanded our portfolio for importing things into Ghana. And now is when you are telling us you are going to source. Now, when we began this year already worse off, we had no idea we're coming here. What? They do not use economists. It's now in November that you're going to tell us that you're going to source cheaper fuel now. And that is still your solution. You didn't add up that, we're going to make sure TOR is running. So people are now going to import cheaper fuel. When have we ever? I mean, so some people are still going to make money off the fuel situation in Ghana. Like, we never learned anything from Nigeria, our closest relatives in this sub-region. We never learned. But also, we didn't learn anything from Nigeria. Nigeria is also very good about protecting they have actually protected some local economy. This government has done nothing to protect local economy. Now, now, I tell you that it's as though, I mean, I don't know. And what is shocking is that I'm not an economist, right? The people who are handling this economy know the dire situations we are in. They have analysts, very smart people. They have known we were coming here. There's no way they can't tell me we didn't know we were coming. We knew they knew we were going to end up here. Possibly their projections are even far worse than we could possibly, and they did nothing to make sure that we didn't end up here. I mean, in preparation for the president's speech, they couldn't put some things. The president didn't say he was cutting his ministers. They are not cutting the size of government. They haven't told us what the savings are. The Bank of Ghana has the audacity to go and harass the black market. The Bank of Ghana is forcing the mining companies to sell directly the dollars, the foreign exchange that the mining companies have, instead of putting it in the interbank market, which was what the practice was. The Bank of Ghana has the audacity to go after black market when it has never enforced the rule that we shouldn't be quoting things in dollars. There are billboards in Ghana where real estate companies are quoting prices in dollars openly while people sit in their SUVs and go to work in the Bank of Ghana, and they never thought that this is something we should fix. Are we, like, honestly? And I am not an economist, but even I know some of these things.
So I like the passion and the analysis, the critical analysis you're doing. Just to wrap on this before we get into the papers, because it's tied to this conversation. We've also followed in Parliament how the minority has been putting forward that vote of censure. There was a brief pause on that because they wanted further engagement. You also recall that the majority MPs, for the first time, which is some sort of light in our democracy, they themselves were pushing for Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to be removed, together with the minister at the office of the president, Edu Boahen. Now, we know that that vote of censure definitely will be brought back by the minority. What is your take on that? And please add to that. We've been told there's this businessman. We don't know his name. We don't know who he is. But the majority confirms that this businessman tried to give them money, whether as a bribe or whatever, in order not to set aside or remove Ken Ofori-Atta. How do you react to all of this?
Well, obviously, I mean, look, I want to remind everybody that we can't, right now, the situation that we are in, we'll take any light, as you are saying, that we will get. But I want to remind people that the majority MP, the majority side, sided with the government over e-levy. Now, for people who are middle class, that maybe this doesn't mean anything for you guys, but the e-levy is a completely anti-poor move. They sided with the government for that. And the minority walked out. Sometimes minority walkouts, I don't understand some of these walkouts, but anyway, this is what the parliament is. So if these same people are turning around to say, oh, we are in a crisis, we take it with a grain of salt. And of course, we saw what happened. What they are trying to do is to save their seats. But already their seats should be forfeit for e-levy. You cannot introduce e-levy in a country that is people that have such inequality, such, it's an anti-poor tax, it is an anti-women tax, it is anti-feminist. You can't, so these same people, their seats were already forfeit. Their seats should be forfeit for having had that, for having made this move. But anyway, they go and then what? Are they bullied? The president says give us 3 weeks. Apparently, does that mean that 3 weeks Ken Ofori-Atta is going to go? And everything that is happening, they give in. We should all be very cynical. There are lots of orchestrated moves, things to make people feel like we are doing something and to hang on to seats. That move was about the elections. I want to remind people that still after that move, we went out the next following days and the situation was still the same. That we have a whole government that is waiting on IMF. And if that was the solution, we could have gone a long time ago. I repeat that we can't have the very person and his crew who put us in this mess being the ones to deliver us out of it, quote unquote, delivery. The president has already intimated that this situation may go on till 2028. They are, in fact, Ken Ofori-Atta should not be one overseeing this. We do not need another budget with his imprint. Or maybe, uncle. But we know they are not listening, but so I don't know. The thing is that the economic situation, it's not going away. So the MPs will still come back to this. People will always be coming back to this until this situation, at least the spiraling out of control of our cost of living, the cost of living should be stable. We know the way, we all know the way Ghana goes, that once the CD dollar rate, once it falls, it never goes back. Apparently, Zambia has been able to increase the kwacha against the dollar. I'm not an economist.
After they got the IMF deal, yeah.
Yes, at the very least, what we want is for things to be stabilized. And they are going to have to be very quickly and very honest and very open with the IMF. These rumors we've heard, which I don't know are substantiated, that they are not being forthcoming. And there were other things we could have taken advantage of. We asked, apparently there was a debt for whatever program. Again, I'm not an economist. we could have taken advantage of, we did not. Rumors about what? A businessman giving attempting to bribe MPs. Nobody needs to bribe MPs. The president is not letting the president and this relationship, their familiar relationship, which is completely dysfunctional for Ghanaians. Nobody needs to bribe the MPs. The president has no intention of firing his finance minister today as we speak. No one needs to bribe anybody. He's not listening. That relationship is completely dysfunctional for Ghana. It has been so since the beginning. It has been so, by the way, since apparently Ken Ofori-Atta wanted to do a progressive free SHS, and his cousin, the president, said, no, we are going all out. We were always headed here because what developing country can afford en masse free education on boarding? I like free education, but free education on boarding, you have to have the middle class pay something. It's completely immoral.
Let's get into the daily graphic this morning. And it says GJA launches 2 million Ghana cedi support fund. There's also review 1992 constitution. Curtail excessive powers of presidents. Email short at an IEA forum. I don't know, but I've thought about these things, said them so many times. We have an executive that is overweening, overbearing, overpowerful. And I don't know whether when Barack Obama came into our country and said we needed strong institutions, not strong men, whether maybe we got the full thrust of that. We need white canes, blind union says.
Can I interject?
I will go into that story so that you can come through.
I have to pause. We must also be a little bit more critical with these quotations. Barack Obama came into Ghana and said we needed strong institutions and strong. That is the exact opposite. They don't even have that in America. So we should stop where we do these things where apparently the Western democracies are what we aspire to. America is reeling from over a 30-year takeover of the Republican Party by the Tea Party people, who are systematically dismantling the institutions. They have infiltrated a minority base. So yes, we do need strong institutions, but I mean, really, we should be. I'm just saying, we all need to do better around the world. So let's desist from this West Washington.
I totally get your point. There is no perfect system, but the point to be made is definitely some of these Western countries. Look at the UK. Look at what happened recently with Kwesi Kwarteng and Liz Truss. They have a very short fuse for some of these things when you veer off the trajectory. Here it appears we seem to have such leeway for that.
I agree, but you see, when we analyze, we should educate Ghanaians more, right? They have a parliamentary system they have a different form of constitution. You see, we have the presidential type. We did a thing where we merged the presidential, the executive type of governance, democracy with the parliamentary system from the UK. The UK and a lot of the European countries, they have that party system. Parties have sway, right? A party forms a government. So those are different things. So when we analyze, we should be very, very careful. We have a constitution that puts an inordinate amount of power into the hands of the executive. That hampers us a lot in what we can do. And the wide field of play that the presidency has. So when we make these comparisons, we should educate our people, because otherwise, all we do is we further a certain level of anti-blackness. You know how many times when Ghanaians are upset at our situation, they say things like, as for the black man, yeah, for the Bibini, dear. These are all...
Well, that is excessive. That is definitely self-derogatory. I don't think we support that. But the point to be made is...
When we say these things, we should also educate. It's important we educate.
Point made.
But the systems are democratic, but they are also not the same, really.
So maybe since you started off on that trajectory, let me just get into that story. So a former commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, that is Justice Emil Francis Short, has advocated the curtailment of the excessive appointment powers of presidents under the 1992 Constitution to enhance good governance and democratic accountability. He argued, let me just flip the page. He argued that the excessive and unrestrained appointment powers and influence granted to presidents under the Constitution created a winner-takes-all environment to the democratic dispensation. He speaks about weak oversight, and then he talks about taking a second look, which is needed to be taken at the provision that the president's consent must be sought in the appointments of board members of state-owned media and all of that. But I can almost list so many of them off the top of my head. IGP, appointed by the president. Chief Justice, if the opening is there, appointed by the president. Of course, there are processes that go into that. As for the members of the Council of State, there are some regional representatives from here and there. Then there are additions, top-ups by Mr. President. You talk about boards, Mr. President, this, Mr. President, DCEs, Mr. Yes, you could say that in the districts, there will be a nomination by Mr. President, and then they would, conduct their voting. But it appears the president has such wide powers. Where do we start with this conversation? Where do we start? Is it tweaking the Constitution?
We've known that we absolutely need to amend our starter Constitution. The Constitution is a starter Constitution. It's wonderful in some parts, and it is completely inadequate in a lot of areas. And the presidential powers is one obvious, very glaring aspect. But let me also say that while our Constitution needs to be reviewed, and we have gone through a process and it has been hijacked by the two political parties, right? One of the things that also hampers what the Constitution sought to do is Parliament. Parliament has decided to take a very secondary role and to not do their oversight work well, to the detriment of our lives in Ghana. A lot of this is also Parliament. And we mustn't, when we talk about, we mustn't stop talking about, it's not just weak oversight. It's wholly irresponsible oversight. It is oversight where people have decided to give over their power. The Parliament has a role that no other institution, it's a very powerful role. But if you come in and you decide that you will collude with the executive, and because the executive, if you are the majority and the executive is also from your party, and that's your party leader, and that's what you're going to do. If you come into Parliament, that's all you are going to do. This is also what is going to happen to Ghana. So part of what has happened to Ghana is the story of Parliament. And yes, we have a constitution that must be amended. We started this process a long, long time ago. We have always known that starter constitutions must be amended. But while we are in the starter constitution, institutions can also work. It isn't always that we need to throw out this constitution. We need people to follow the law that is laid down within the constitution. We need for our institutions not to be captured by political power. We need people to understand the difference where you abide. In fact, you revel in the power the Constitution has given you over the fact that you have party affiliations. You were brought in to do a job on behalf of the people of Ghana, the Parliament, the judiciary. So yes, we have a huge problem. But no, even in this stage where institutions have incredible amount of power and mandates that are precious, they are not acting according to their mandates. They're just letting executives run willy-nilly how they want over everybody else. And this is where we end ourselves.
Let me run these three stories very briefly by you. The first one, 2,961 police officers trained on standard operating procedures, and these selected police officers have been trained on standard operating procedures in handling child victims, witnesses, and offenders. Again, 50% of professionals in the justice system have been certified to deal with such cases, while 18 child-friendly, gender-based violence courts have been established across the country and 2 juvenile courts refurbished. That's the first one. The next one, we need white canes. Blind Union appeals to government. And the Ghana Blind Union has appealed to the government to provide persons with visual impairment with white canes as part of efforts to promote social inclusiveness. And Dr. Peter Obing Asamoah, who is executive director of the union, said that only about 30% of the estimated 230,000 visually impaired people had access to white canes. And he says, quote, "This is not good, and it is not too much to ask the government to provide us with white canes. We should have a system that does that because the canes are basic mobility tools. I don't know, let me just add the last one. So there's the police on standard operating procedures. There's the blind union on white canes. And finally, on page 16, prosecute illegal miners. That's according to the religious leaders. And they have called on the government to arrest and prosecute all persons involved in illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey, without fear or favor. They have also called for a temporary ban to be placed on small-scale mining. Kina, we've had a ban before. Then we came through with community mining. And in fact, we all recall Mr. President said he was putting his presidency on the line in the fight against galamsey. What's your quick reaction to these three stories as we wrap with the Daily Graphic?
He never put his well. First of all, let's leave the galamsey will be the third. I like the fact that you picked up stories that have to do with inequalities in Ghana. One of the things I heard at a feminist forum last week was that when the police are tested, when they are trained and they are tested, the training on gender-based violence and sensitivity to dealing with marginalized victims is not part of what they are tested on. So I hope that sooner, and therefore people need not really take it seriously. We appeal to the police training commanders, to the force, the institute, to make sure that because handling of domestic violence, child abuse, rape, incest, dealing with marginalized victims. These are very it's core to policing and to the idea of providing protection and safety throughout the justice system for victims. So we want them to be tested on it. So it's a great initiative. It is sad. You know, I always wonder, there are certain things that a leader can do that just gives them like shine, praise. One of them is just doing right by your marginalized people. Like if you do that, there's no end to global accolades. And I think this president likes global accolades. So we do not need for our blind in Ghana to be begging for white canes. These things should have been provided. And let me go back and remind everybody that Idris Afo abandoned her post as minister for it's called, what is it called now? The Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. She abandoned her post. The president appointed a caretaker minister who already had a portfolio somewhere else.
Cecilia Abinadapa.
Yes. And then finally fired Idris Afo and now has appointed somebody. Like the commitment to safeguarding and protecting and empowering and giving freedom to marginalized people in Ghana, particularly to people who suffer disabilities, has been so lacking in this government, but also in a lot of government. But it's not a priority. Our blind should not have to beg. What are canes? One SUV. People, the petrol they use to even go on tours in the eastern region. I mean, where is our care? Who are we if we do not care for people? Who are we? What are we? Why must the blind come and ask for canes? Like,
mind-boggling, isn't it?
It's shocking. It's unkind, and you know we are going to need. And I always say this: Ghanaians, and the only system that Ghanaians are, in fact, the only system Ghanaians understand is the education system and the health system. But I want to tell Ghanaians that systemic inequality and systemic abuse is so rampant here in Ghana. We are going to have to learn to save our own kind, to save ourselves, because it is utterly disgraceful and so wrong for the blind to come out to say that they need white canes. They are not even asking for traffic lights that take into consideration the fact that you have people with disability in Ghana. We're not even talking about overpasses and things that require cement. Our buildings most of our buildings are still inaccessible. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about canes. Canes.
And we're talking just 30% of 230,000 who have them. Let me, permit me to do the math very quickly. So
do the math.
let's just do this. Okay, times 230,000, which would mean that only 69,000 of them have the white canes, which would, let's approximate that to 70. That would mean 160,000 of them don't have.
And mind you, these are the blind people who are registered with the blind union.
Right.
And since seeing is also on a spectrum, we actually need more of that, more than that, because chances are there are people who are not completely blind, but who would benefit with some assistance with canes. Because sight, like everything else, is on a spectrum. Like I have glasses, so my eyesight is not the best. You see what I'm trying to say? So what we are talking about is the most dire. And we can't meet the needs of the most dire.
Let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Kina, we have just about some 5 minutes more. We'll make the most of it as we get into the other papers. Shatawale lands in trouble over comments on social media. Of course, he's accused Bull God. He changed from Bulldog to Bull God, and of sort of having a hand in the death of Fenwick Ochre. And now, of course, he who alleges must prove. And so Shatawale would have to, go through the legal processes. Minority calls on government to intervene in fuel price hikes. We've already spoken about some of that. They are calling on government to use the price stabilization levy, which has that as its purpose anyway. So why not use it to cushion ordinary Ghanaians? We're ready to commence work on $993 million Pualugu multipurpose dam project. That's according to the Upper East Regional Minister. What befuddles me, boggles my mind on this is we've had this on the table for how long now? And almost $1 billion project. It's still not taken off. It was expected to take off in 2020, 2 years ago. Quick reactions, Akina?
Well, let me comment on the Shatawale story. Well, first of all, for me, Shatta talks too much. But that's not what I want to point on. When I looked into this story, the police were talking about a cold case unit they have set up. Some years ago, an extended relative was shot in my village over chieftaincy. And if I tell you that seeking justice from the police has been near impossible, the case is probably be a cold case. That was like maybe 5 years. What struck me was just how lack of effort police put towards murder cases in Ghana. And we've been here, an MP was, I think, stabbed to death in his home, and the case was made nonsense. And now Ghana police is telling us they have a cold case unit. When I look at the police force and I look at the people that go into the police force and I look at all these minds, and that our policing has really been reduced to traffic control and I don't know what, by their own administration, but also by political administration. That the fact that the police raise a majority of their institutional funds from guarding banks and stuff, and yet the crime goes unchecked and largely unpunished. If also the people who have perpetrated the crimes are powerful, have any amount of power, and if you can't depend on your police to find perpetrators of murder. So I'm hoping that the cold case unit does something. But I've been to the police headquarters. They have very little resources. They have if you even look at resources in terms of just laptops, there's very little. I don't know what we do about fingerprinting. And again, this goes to our sense of safety and protection in Ghana. So I hope that they have to be able to. There has to be some urgency to clear murder cases in Ghana,
right?
And in a way that gives justice to victims. So that's the first thing. What is the other thing?
So we're also looking at the dam.
Let me say that beyond the dam. Yesterday, I think it was. I was listening to a radio station. I forget which one, and they were talking about a road in the western region. Where it's so bad when it rains, there are locks that they have to put on the road because heavy rains have damaged. There's no road, obviously, it's not tarred. And this old lady was sick and she had to be carried. And I thought to myself about construction in Ghana and how really we have to. It's like we have to do what people will call a pro needs construction, which is that all roads must be assessed on. If there isn't a road, does it pose damage, a risk to people's lives in getting to the hospital? does it affect people, particularly people in farming and other agricultural areas? Does it hinder their access to markets? So, and obviously dams are good things. But when I think about the construction that sometimes we do in Accra, and I think about the fact that there are roads in Ghana where there are no roads, first of all, there are parts in Ghana where when somebody is critically ill, they have to be carried over logs over water. We need to change the way we do this country.
Most definitely.
Because our lives are forfeit. And you may think that you sit in Accra and you are driving over overpasses and your life is not forfeit. To be a Ghanaian is your life is forfeit. And we have to run this country where our lives are no longer forfeit, just for being Ghanaians. So the dam, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes when you hear the key thing is work, we are ready to commence work. The key thing is work has not commenced. So they should stop telling us when they are ready. Because readiness can take 10 years. We know that now. So report to us when you have actually started and you are continuing and work is going on. Don't come to us when you are ready. Because we don't know. Readiness in Ghana can take a very long time.
Kina, let's wrap with these two stories. We have less than a minute. Abesim cannibal goes for mental checkup. You would recall a Kaneshi District Court ordered the Ghana Police Service to take Richard Appiah, the 28-year-old man who killed 2 children and kept parts of the bodies in a refrigerator at Alaska, a suburb of Abesim near Sunyani in the Bono region, to a psychiatric hospital for review. And so they are checking him up mentally. That is on page 6 of the Daily Guide. And to wrap, Business Finder, Valco workers reject 22% salary increment, demand 55%. And there's this awkward situation. I have been covering it myself for my network, JoyNews. And it's interesting because the plant was shut down, and this is the only aluminium smelter in West Africa. It was shut down. Now the cost as a result of that is going to be around $12.7 million. The workers were simply demanding that you're supposed to pay us the equivalent in cedis of our dollar salaries. When the cedi depreciates against the dollar, pay us the equivalent. So many matters outstanding. We'll be discussing it today. Any quick thoughts in 30 seconds?
Well, first of all, we welcome any effort to submit perpetrators of gross crime to mental assessment.
Scrutiny.
As we know, we need a lot more mental psychiatric care in Ghana. So that's a good move. Look, did you say that it will cost $12.7 million to reopen?
Yes, because
$12.7 million.
Yes.
But this government has mismanaged even the COVID funds. What is 12.7 million? They should pay it, and they should give the workers what they are asking for. Sometimes when you look at what has been misappropriated and you look at the actual cost of things, the distance is huge. What is happening that cannot be done? I don't understand. It's because priorities are misplaced. Because when you were saying when saying it has been shut down for so long and the cost to open it, I was expecting you to say somewhere around 100 million. 12.7 million. 12.7. They have misappropriated, and I'm using misappropriation kindly. The COVID funds, they could have used some of the COVID funds for this. The COVID funds they can't account for properly.
Kina Likimani, outright as always. I miss you, actually. I look forward to the next time I get to see you. But thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we wish you the very best of the day.
Bye-bye.
All right. Kina Likimani, of course, programs manager at Odikro, always ready, gun, on the finger on the trigger to fire away. But it's been really enjoyable having Kina this morning. Well, time now for me to leave you, but sports is up next, and we're gearing up for World Cup 2022 in Qatar. We'll be bringing you a lot more on the local and international front. Do stay. Well, thank you for staying with us on the AM show. We're going to be talking about the minority which is calling for the use of the price stabilization levy when it comes to fuel products to cushion ordinary Ghanaians. And the interesting bit, I was just interacting with someone who spoke about how arbitrary the fares have got. You pay something today, the next day you're paying something else. We'll be talking about the transport fare hikes as well, but let's start engaging our guests. Dr. Patrick Ofori is CEO, Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. We'll announce other guests as we go along. But Dr. Ofori, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation. Hello, Doc. All right, so we'll work the lines to get Dr. Ofori.
Thank you. Good morning. I think I was still on mute.
Right. Good to have you. What is your take? So let's start from the latest that we know, the price stabilization. We'll get to that levy. But on the back of the recent fuel price hikes, diesel now selling for around 23 cedis. And we're talking about petrol at just about 18 cedis. What is your quick reaction to that?
Well, it's quite unfortunate, but most importantly, these are prices that is determined by other forces that none of us are in a position to be able to control those forces. You look at, in history, you're talking about diesel. Supply for diesel is at its all-time low since 1951. And normally in such a market, once there is that shortage, you expect prices to go up. And unfortunately, with the sanctions going on with Russia and Ukraine, which has also contributed to that, you also realize that Europe and then North America are now in the winter season, and without the gas from Russia, most of them are also turning into diesel. So there is a lot of pressure for that commodity, and unfortunately, we happen to be caught up in such a turbulent period. And that really explains why the international pricing, and then also you look at how bad our currency has also performed recently. So these are the two major factors that is contributing to the hikes, which unfortunately the ordinary Ghanaian are also feeling it at the pumps.
But does that adequately explain these price hikes? Because guess what? There are other countries going through similar situations, but with not skyrocketing prices like we have seen it. Is it just those factors? I mean, beyond that, what else do we know?
Beyond that, I think those countries that you're talking about may not necessarily feel it. Maybe their currency is performing somehow better. Maybe they may not have a certain situation. Maybe the government have decided that they are putting in either subsidies, or they might have previously find a mechanism whereby some of their reserves somewhere has been pumping. You're looking at currently US. If a gallon is going for $5.30 per gallon of diesel, and it's also expected to go up about another 20% within this week, especially because of what is happening in the Mississippi region, clearly gives an indication that it's a market that is difficult for anybody to really predict and to create those cushions. Whatever form you want to see, definitely we will need to pay for it at a certain point in time. So the government may decide that, well, we're granting in these measures, and then at a later date, when the prices are relatively stable in the world market, and then our currency is also performing, we may introduce another form of a levy or create another form of a bond to compensate for those subsidies that they injected into the system during this period. So that may explain why some countries, despite the international hikes, may still be able to buy this at relatively cheaper prices.
Do hold for me, Dr. Ofori. Let me also bring in Duncan Amwa, who is the Executive Secretary of COPEC. Duncan, you have made some predictions right here on this show in the past in terms of fuel price increments, but I don't think any of us would have imagined that diesel would hit 23 cedis before the close of the year and that petrol would be selling at 18 cedis. I mean, back then we were talking about 15 CDs and the rest. Any surprises in there? What have we got right? What have we got wrong?
Well, Benjamin, good morning. Good morning to your viewers, Dr. Patrick Ofori, as well. Yes, we've had extensive discussions on, prices and how we thought they were likely to go. The farthest we saw was about 18. 23, probably not. But then again, anytime you wake up to hear CD has taken a battering and it's depreciating and it's moved from 12, 13, 14, 15 and counting. For some of us, we just knew that the variations would eventually come home to bite all of us. It wasn't surprising that you would wake up to see the 20, 21, 22 at a time when the BDCs, per my checks, were struggling to even place any pricing properly on the product. The only thing we have failed to do as a country is to read our times, like where the market is heading and where interventions are necessary, apply interventions sometimes to forestall these increases. The only reason organizations like ours would also put these forecasts that we often see ahead is to also enable those in the policy space, if they have anything to do, to at least activate a response before the pumps reflect these numbers eventually. Unfortunately, they don't. So you would churn out the numbers, you would probably put your Excel sheets together and do the math, publish them. And those who are probably to be concerned about this and possibly look to intervene are either unconcerned or simply cannot be bothered that fuel has gone past 13, has gone past 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and then 23. At a time, your neighbors in Togo are paying just about 10 Ghana cedis for a liter. You wonder what exactly is wrong with our system, Benjamin. There's quite a lot that we need to fix here. We haven't done any.
But to be fair, I also hear that the Togolese are getting some subsidies.
Benjamin, if it will cost the entire Togolese government $20 million to keep fuel prices and by extension to keep the price of all commodities within the country within affordability limits, then they are probably being so smart. If you look at what the overruns in pricing in fuel price alone in Ghana is doing to the Ghanaian economy, I'm not sure you can put a figure to it, be it $1 billion or 10 billion, because sachet water producers just a week ago on your show were insisting they needed to increase prices because once they are done bagging the water, the distribution process would have to use fuel. And so once the fuel goes up for them, you've increased overhead cost for them, and they would have to increase the cost of the item. Even bagged water is today taking a battering simply because we are not managing fuel pricing in the country. And that for us is a worry. If Togo is paying 20 million the entire month and it sustains those economies from taking the kind of battering or misalignment as ours are taking. If you listen to Mr. President's speech earlier, he was clear that the 2022 budget has been thrown off completely, meaning that what government had projected to spend, what they had projected to earn, what they had projected to probably do within the year, they cannot even do it because everything is bazaar as we speak. Then, it is only wise and prudent that we plan, because failure to plan is also a plan in itself, and it would only lead to one thing: failure itself. And
okay, so just hold on that point for me.
We seem to be taking.
Right, just hold on that point for me. Let me bring in Mutawakilu Adam, former Member of Parliament, Damango, who also joins the conversation. Thank you, sir, for joining the conversation. Hello? Do we have Adam Mutawakilo on the line? Please unmute, sir. We can't hear you. All right, I'm not getting any feedback from Adam Mutawakilo. Please unmute, sir, if you can hear me. All right. I still cannot hear. Honorable, can you hear me now? All right. Let me bring in Kojopoku Energy.
I can hear you.
Okay. I can hear you now. I think there was just a bit of a... Okay, so Kojopoku, same question to you. I mean, would you have forecast at the start of the year that we'll get to this point where diesel would be selling for 23 cedis and fuel at 18? Like Duncan Amo has mentioned, in Togo, it's going for something less than 10 cedis fuel prices generally. And I was there just last week, and I took stock of the fact that most of their products were far cheaper comparatively to what we're paying here. We also know that there are some subsidies being offered on the market. We've been told about the 20 million that is pumped into the system every month or so. But is that not the sort of thing we ought to be doing? Did you expect us to get here in terms of our fuel prices?
Well, good morning, Ben. If I had been able to forecast the fuel price at this stage, then definitely I'll be able to give you a too-sure, and me and you would have staked some good money on it and be rich by now in these hard times.
I know, right?
No, in anybody's imagination could you now have thought that the cedi to the dollar would be as bad as it is now for us to be able to forecast the price of the... Even 2 weeks ago, nobody could have told you that we'll be where we are today, because all this thing with the cedi depreciating so rapidly came as a shock to everybody. Look, the issue of the Togolese and the Francophone zone, they have a much stable, safer, and their government is able to subsidize. And, we can't do that. If we have saved, that is why I keep saying that one of the things that we should do as a nation is save. If we do not save money and we keep going on this spree whereby we think we need to bridge infrastructure gap and bankrupt the treasury in this pursuit of infrastructure, then in hard times like this, we can't do much. So it's unfortunate that we are where we are. But I'm hoping that the policies and then the calm in the market in the last couple of days will last, and we will now recede from where we are. But there's a point Duncan made, which for me I think is very unfortunate on the part of most of our appointees in government. COPEC, IES keep doing these predictions, and yesterday some people are calling it announcement. It's not. They look at the forward, what the market prevailing international prices, and tell us that, look, in the coming week, we might get an increase. Then a proactive appointee or somebody who is in Ministry of Energy or government, Jubilee House, will read this and say, hey, what's going on? Let's call everybody to the table and stop this before it happens. They don't. They are reactionary. After the pump has changed, then they call the meeting. That doesn't make sense, because in Ghana, we all realize that when things go up, they don't come down. So when after you've been made aware that in the next window there's going to be an increase, you don't do anything. Then the price go up. Then all the other things go up. Commodities, everything goes up. Then at that point, you call a meeting. Today, my fear is that if the petrol prices come down to the 10s and the 11s and the 12s, some of the things that have been increased might never come down again. Okay, so it's really unfortunate on the part of some of these appointees in government that when some of these predictions or reports are put in a public domain, the forecast is put in a public domain for them to consume, they don't look at it. And their actions are reactionary at best.
And that's quite an interesting point that is made, because staying on that subject very briefly, it affects everything. You know that now, transport fares have gone up again. I'm not talking about the last one. I'm talking about as of yesterday. Transport fares have gone up again.
Man, I have
a bag of cement. Let me just wrap on this. A bag of cement, which sold for around 40, 45 cedis, is now 100 cedis. Yesterday, I went somewhere and there was an item, okay, that just about 3 weeks ago, before I traveled to Lomé in Togo, was going for 416 cedis. That same item is around 850 cedis currently. So the bit about these prices go up and never come down are a reality. I don't know what we can do about it.
Well, that's the point. The point I was trying to make, Ben, is that yesterday was end of month, so we have to pay salaries, right? And at the point of basically dishing our checks, people are looking at you with some eye that, is this what I'm, because you have to be human. But the problem is that you cannot also go and squeeze the money from a rock. I mean, my brother Duncan will not give me a loan when I ask him. So I don't have money to pay salaries or add to the money. The only thing I can do is to give them what I can give. And unfortunately, you know clearly, because yesterday in the office, they were discussing how much they paid for the lorry fare the day before and what they have to pay yesterday. So I'm very much aware. I mean, when you have workers in the office, you know these things. It's unfortunate. That's why I'm saying that, look, the government being reactionary is not helping the situation. Proactive is the way to go, but we are not. And I don't think anybody is learning lessons in government on this matter. Everybody is happy to be reactionary after the fact the meetings are called. And that is a key problem.
Let me find out whether we can engage Mutawakilu Adam currently. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, hello, I can hear you.
Great, good to have you. So briefly on this point, I mean, we've got to the point where the fuel price hikes have simply taken over. And we know that the minority is calling for the use of the price stabilization levy. As of January, we're looking at $96 to the barrel. Then the Russo-Ukrainian, impasse started in February, and then prices simply went haywire, over $100 and all of that. Then, I mean, if you look at the current prices, we've gone back to January levels. Some of your members, in fact, the minority in Parliament, is calling for the price stabilization levy to be used for this purpose. But is it as simple as that?
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning to our cherished viewers. I will say good morning to Duncan and my good friend, Dr. Ufori, and my very good friend. Yeah, from where I would like to start from July, August, and the projections for going forward. You realize that the turning point and where we got into is inflation. Inflation has led to increase in interest rate and depreciation of the cedi. So it is not just looking at depreciation of the cedi alone, but government must tackle inflation. Now with the depreciation of the cedi, you can even project to December. As at July, the only foreign exchange we require was the $750 million. Anybody with anticipation that only $750 government is relying to, how long will it take us? So speculators can predict that the cedi will depreciate after the 750. It is currently stable because of the cocoa syndicated loan of $1.13 billion that government has received. How long will that take us? And if we don't have IMF agreements, I will tell you that from 15th, 20th of November, you see the cedi sliding seriously. This is clear.
What kind of projection is that, though? The cedi has appreciated against the dollar in recent days. I mean, the projection by some economists is that it will fall to around 13 cedis, 10 pesos to the dollar because it hit over 15. Now you're saying that from mid-November, it's going to start slumping again? Based on what are you saying that?
You should have followed what I'm saying. The cedi is a bit stable as a result of the cocoa syndicated loan that is coming in, which is $1.13 billion. If the Minister of Finance come to read the budget, and it is evident that we haven't had any agreement with the IMF, my brother, the cedi will continue, will start depreciating again. Because there is no any inflow for government going forward. That is a fact. So the only thing government is relying on now is to be able to get IMF agreement, one, to bring discipline, to bring confidence to investors, and then to stabilize the cedi. So if the budget is read and it is made clear that we've now been able to have an IMF agreement, then we'll have a serious problem.
Do you foresee that is what we are approaching? Because some have said that technically it's not even possible when you look at the technical processes the IMF must go through that we would get a program even by close of year. So do you foresee that this is what will happen?
I can see going forward we might not be able to get an agreement from IMF as promised by both the president and the finance minister. I believe that this budget will be read without IMF agreement.
Is there the possibility of pushing back the budget reading? We've been told November 15. That has not changed. But is it possible to push it back just to secure an IMF deal before? I mean, I'm talking parliamentary processes here.
Yes, it's not by law that it must be read in December, and therefore it must happen. So the government has an option to shift it to December to be able to have some space to negotiate with IMF. So now, when it comes to the petroleum prices, apart from the international world prices, currently what we are facing is mostly as a result of the depreciation of the cedi. And I like my brother Ofori referring to US where pumps have gone high. At the same time, both US and UK are taking measures to cushion their consumers through windfall tax on companies, international oil companies and national oil companies because of the windfall as a result of price increase. That is a government that put the people at the center of the economy. So US is not just sitting down, allowing the prices. They are taking actions to compensate consumers, to reduce burden on consumers, which is not happening in the case of Ghana. However, we must also agree that the price stabilization recovery levy is to be able to cushion. As the minister has said,
Let me bring in Dr. Ofori on this point.
Hello.
Yes, Adam Mutawakilu, just hold for me. Let me bring in Dr. Ofori as well. You started talking about what Adam Mutawakilu is speaking of, prices across the world, but I have friends in the UK and the US who will tell you about other mechanisms to ensure that they stay safe in terms of their feeding, in terms of their consumables, in terms of fuel and all of that. There are mechanisms in place. So tell me, these windfalls that we have got, per government's own projections at the start of the year in the budget, we have made those windfalls. The minority is calling for the price stabilization levy to be used to fill the gap, to cushion the ordinary Ghanaian. What is your take?
I think it's a difficult call for government, and if you clearly appreciate the concerns of you're listening to both sides of the house. I think the minority obviously want to ensure that they gain favor from the ordinary person on the street. But clearly, the government position now that they are even struggling for the import bills. So if they have any form of taxes coming in, obviously it's gone. That is why. Another aspect that sometimes I will go with not being maybe as a nation, not being proactive, is that having these mitigation measures line up somewhere that we could easily step in. Yes, we talk about government intervening. Definitely, it will come at a cost that the same taxpayer is going to pay. Let me give you an historical account of what happened previously. In the years early 2000, I think 2004, 2007, thereabout, Tor was producing at a price when the world market was going up, yet they were asked to be subsidized. So the prices that we're buying for never really reflected the true dynamics of the world economy. At that time, it created the famous Tor debt recovery levy, that we later came to pay. We also go back recently under NDC 2014-2015, when there was also these similar shortages that culminated in most of the BDC collapsing, and that also created the almighty ESLA bonds for that aspect. At that time, the government asked GMPC to bring products for toll and bus to distribute to the nation. They created that, and though that debt, as I'm speaking to you, still sits in the books of GMPC. That has been the situation that has caused most of our public institutions going on the trajectory that we've seen. But if we are to really realign roles and know that there are strategic reserves and that we are all contributing towards the lean period, and then we have a clear differentiation as to what BOST is doing, what GOA or any of these state players are doing. In that sense, you are able to do that. But don't forget, even in UK, Kwesi Kwarteng decided to cap the price of utility to a maximum £4,900 or so. Look at what happened. And he was going to even borrow to do that. That was what even caused his and his government to fall down. So whilst we are trying to look at the numbers in relation to this, we also need to be circumspect about the true reality on the ground. Is this government books that healthy enough? And excuse me to say, if they were in that position, would they be going to IMF? And you look at even, I was telling somebody yesterday, someone called the government should step in and do this and subsidize. Within the first...
Dr. Ofori, the question to be asked is this. We have the price stabilization levy. We know what purpose significantly it is for. In situations like this, it's meant to cushion the ordinary Ghanaian. If you say so, then it means that it suggests that maybe those funds have been pumped into something else. But we don't have any facts and figures to that.
We don't. I asked what that money has been used. I leave that one for the parliamentarian. But what I'm trying to say is this: you check the window just before this one. The BDCs alone made almost approximately $200 million losses. So how much have you gained throughout the price stabilization to be able to have stomach all this and then up to the end of the year?
Okay, Dr. Ofori, hold for me.
You also look at the numbers involved here. You are IMF going to seek for 3-year period, 3-point-something billion. Your whole import bills for petroleum products annually is in the region of 4 billion.
Right.
How realistic can you actually subsidize? I think these are some of the things that we need to look at.
Hold for me, Dr. Ofori. Hold for me there. It's an important point you've made. I want to talk about the transport fares and their increments, but let me just hold on and bring in Duncan and Kojopoku, because I want to get this bit about the windfalls off. Duncan, Kojopoku, a minute each. I'll start with you, Duncan. What is your take on this call by the minority when it comes to the windfalls and using the price stabilization levy? In a minute each. I'll start with you, Duncan.
Well, Ben, this was a window we could have utilized, but never did. The windfall money, as far back as the beginning of the year to June, we were over-recovering on our petroleum exports. Now, if the finance guys had decided at the time that, look, we're looking for 60 in our budget, based on which we have done the numbers and the math. If it's 100, 112, we safely could apply about 20 to cushion the local market so that the pump pricing does not misalign with our budgetary forecast or estimate.
Okay, so bottom line,
missed that window.
Bottom line is you agree with the minority, you agree with their calls for the levy to be used for this purpose, at least a percentage.
At this point, where we have gotten to, we are in a crisis zone. So you might not probably just get those simple remedies and it will work. We would rather go for, Mr. President, instructing Bank of Ghana to give a secure, FX rate for the fuel import market. That way, if the BOG decided today to, let's say, apply 12 or 13, what I know is that the BDCs are currently pricing with 17, 18, 19 for their forward FX. If the BOG could give them a quarter to give them 13, your fuel price today could decelerate by at least 4, 5, 6 Ghana cedis a liter
Okay.
I'm certain with that you probably will be talking raw numbers.
Okay. Hold for me. Kojopoku, quickly on that as well. Less than a minute if you can.
Well, my brother, you made a point that it means that money has been used for something else. Yes, that money has been used for something else. In the price stabilization and recovery levy, it is to fund other things. It is to fund premix, RFO,
right,
and then to stabilize price. We recently saw the letter from the NPA saying that they stopped the subsidy for RFO. It tells you that money doesn't sit there and does nothing. They've used the money, and they've used all the money for RFO and premix. So there's no money there. So that's the bit where when people say that money is sitting there. Look, we went on a campaign about a beginning of the year or sometime last year. My institute did letters and we did all this publication saying that, look, where is ASEP did it and INSTEP also did it. And we are saying that where is the pricing stabilization recovery levy? And the accounts that we saw, they used some of that money to buy outboard motors. They use some of that money to subsidize premix, and they use some of that money for the RFO. So when it came to the fact that prices were going up, there was no money to use to subsidize the Ghanaians. So the money, in short, has been spent. In terms of the windfall, the consolidated fund, which all money goes in, okay, that money in the consolidated fund doesn't have red, blue, and green to determine what the money is for. If the government has 80 billion Ghana cedis sitting somewhere, you think we're going to the IMF? Hell no. We don't have any money sitting where
But a quick one. So it's clear we don't have the money sitting down. And I mean, I'm sure by conjecture, most of us have got to that conclusion. But does the Petroleum Revenue Act allow these sums of money to be rerouted like we are seeing it being done? Because this would have been a very good situation to cushion the ordinary Ghanaian when it comes to this. The rerouting of the money, as for the RFOs, I think that's a different situation. What's your take?
No, the fund, you see, the act that establishes the fund, which is the Petroleum Recovery Stabilization Levy Act, allows for premix, RFO, and also be using to cushion Ghanaians in terms of price hike. So the act allows that. What I'm saying is that the rainfall, which the minority is saying that accrued to us as a result of pricing low, $50 for the budget, and the prices were around 120, so the government made about $120 per barrel in the excess. What I'm saying is that money goes into the consolidated fund, and government must have used it for other things.
Point made. Let me come now to Samuel Amwa, who is a PRO for the GPRTU. Mr. Amwa, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben.
Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for holding. We're hearing lots of different stories. We hear that as of yesterday and even today, there have been price increments again. What exactly is going on?
Hello, Ben, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes. Your question again, please.
So I'm saying that in recent times, you wanted what? Over 40%, around 49 or so % of an increment. You sat, you discussed with the presidency and all of that, and you came to a conclusion that you would accept 19%. We hear the final figure you've put out is 20%. But we hear that almost day upon day, there are increments in fares. What exactly is happening?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ben. Let me say good morning to your cherished viewers out there. What is happening is that, yes, it's true, we met the president last week, Tuesday, and then we presented 40% based on, where the component that we are using to run our businesses has gone to, most especially the fuel price. And then the negotiations went on, and finally, we landed on 19%, of which we were not pleased about it. Actually, what we asked the president was that we understand there is going to be another pricing window, of which we know the fuel price is going to go up again. And should it go up, and if it goes up, then there is the possibility for us to also, increase our fares, because the agreement we had with the government is that anytime they increase up to 10% threshold, then we, the transporters, also has to increase our fares. So the president gave us an assurance that they are working on things to make sure that they cushion, they bring in some things, if I may put it that way. They will do everything possible to make sure that the fuel will not go up to, where our expectation is, and that we should hold on with the 19%. Actually, when we came back and we called a meeting, we called our members, our drivers, and told them about this 90%. Actually, they were not happy about it. And then the next day, the fuel price went up again. And even as of last 3 days, now diesel is being sold for about 23 cedis, 49 pesos. So, in fact, the drivers were not able to hold it again, and they call for another increment based on where the fuel price has gone to and all the other components. So, yesterday, another 20%. The drivers also increased by 20% again.
So, Mr. Amwa, you're telling me that apart from the 20% that was added, you've added another 20%, making it 40% on apart from what you agreed.
That is correct, Ben. Yesterday, it happened. Yesterday, another 20% has been added to the old 20%, making 40. Because, you can see there are some places drivers were even parked their vehicles. They decided not to go to work because they can't go to work, and at the close of the day, they can't even get money to buy fuel, as to getting money to make their sales and get something to be taken home. So these are some of the reasons why now we have come out with another 20% increment. Someone may ask that why is it that we didn't go to the government again for another negotiation? Yes, this is what we were supposed to do. But per the presentation we sent to the president asking of the 40, we explained vividly the reason why we are taking the 40%. And we drag up to 19, thinking that fuel price will not go up again. Now, drivers are suffering. So what I will say is that nobody can blame a driver now, because even the government is not able to cushion the citizens. So is it the driver who is going to cushion the citizens? Because this is our business that we run to take care of our homes. And now you work at the close of the day, use all your monies to go and buy fuel and come home empty-handed. Cowners cannot even meet their sales. Spare parts has gone high. Lubricant has gone high. Everything has gone high. So now, as of yesterday, 20% has been added to the old 20%, making it 40. And that is what is happening in the country now.
But you can't do this. You can't just do this arbitrarily. You can't just stand up as a union and keep doing this, because you know what the effects are. Recently, someone lost his life because he was haggling over an extra 2 Ghana cedis that had been added. And he lost his life. So aren't you also fueling into the problem? Or feeding into it?
Let's take it this way. You see, this is our business that we run. Look, even the OMCs, I'm seeing it like the government is not even able to even control the OMCs. They are coming out with their prices, okay? And even go to the spare parts market. They are also doing their own things. We are not saying because of these things we are also doing our own things, but this is our business that we are running. Can we continue to work and lose all the time? Can we continue to do this work and every day you see a driver going home with empty-handed? Are you getting it? So all these things is happening because the government is not living up to expectation. The promises that is being given to the drivers, are not coming. Now, drivers are suffering. That is why all these things are happening like that. So this is not a fault or this is not something that someone may, put the blame on drivers. This is a business we are also running. In fact, it's rather unfortunate. The other time I met a driver and he was even saying, he has even regretted being a commercial driver. Why is he saying so? Because, a driver will work and he will not get anything. Are you getting it? So, Ben, I know the situation now is getting out of hands, but I believe passengers has to also to understand the drivers, the situation in which the drivers are in now.
So is this arbitrariness going to continue? Basically, what I'm saying is, let's assume this week or next week, prices go up a little. Let's say diesel goes to about 24 cedis or 25. And we're not hoping for that, but I'm just projecting hypothetically. And let's say maybe fuel also goes up. I mean, petrol or something. Is that to mean we should expect fuel price increments as these transport fare increments, as the fuel price increments occur? Is that where we are now?
Ben, I think now the transporters are also coming up with this automatic adjustment system.
Automatic adjustment system, I see.
Formula. Ben, now fuel prices goes up every day and every day. When we had our 20% fare increment way back in May, all right, we sat down. The next month that was June, July, the fuel price went up again. We were supposed to come up with an increment. We didn't do that, thinking that the fuel price will come down. We waited and from May to this October that we went for this increment. Then the fuel price has gone up to about 42%, of which if we were supposed to increase our fare, we should have increased it by four times. Even from the time we had this 19% that we jumped to 20%, up to now, it has been increased again for about 46%, meaning that our 10% threshold, we have exceeded. So nowadays, if the fuel price goes up, then means the transport fares also has to go up, because without that, we can't survive. We can't run our business. Then if it happens like that, and maybe if we cannot continue again, then the best way for us to park our vehicles, because we cannot be running at a loss all the time.
All right, so I just need clarity on two things very quickly. So it means this AAS, automatic adjustment system, that is what you've adopted now as the GPRTU. As the prices change at the pumps, you are also going to be changing your prices. Has this been approved by the GPRTU? And do you have a buy-in from other drivers' unions?
I'm not saying it has been approved, but what I'm saying is that per what is happening now, I think that is the system we also have to adopt now. Because when we got to the 10% threshold, we waited. We didn't increase, thinking that the fuel price will come down. But now we have come to understand that there is no way the fuel prices is going to come down. So anytime the fuel price goes up to this our 10% threshold, we also come out with an increment. That is what I'm saying.
All right, my final bit to you. So does it mean that you're still going to engage the powers that be, the tripartite committee and maybe government moving forward when it comes to some of the increments, or have you totally ditched that?
Oh, actually, we have not cancelled that. The leadership of GPRTU and the transport operators, GRTCC and others, we still have this engagement with the government. But this time around, the whole thing got out of hands based on within a week that they gave us 19. Think our expectation was on 40, and they gave us 19, gave us a promise, and within a week, fuel price went up to about 46% again. That is why drivers decided to increase it this way. So I can say boldly that yes, the former 20% that we had, that was way back May. We did it ourselves based on the delays from the presidency or from the ministry. So if it happens like that, then maybe a time will come we'll also be increasing it without meeting the government.
Mr. Amwa, thank you for joining the conversation. He is PRO for the GPRTU. Let me bring in Adam Mutawakilu. Now, two quick questions I want to run by you. On the back of what has been said, it is obvious that control over the prices right now is not really in the hands of the powers that be. But the recent suspension on residual fuel oil in terms of subsidies, and then again, our team, which is in the United Arab Emirates, trying to get cheaper fuel. What are the realities of these two? Because it also means then that, well, the industry, instead of going for diesel, which is much more expensive, they will pay the full cost of the RFO. But what are your expectations when it comes to what Mr. President said, that we'll get cheaper fuel?
Yeah, thank you very much. In respect to what the President said in terms of cheaper fuel, where do we get cheaper fuel? Is it the crude or final product, that is the petroleum product? In terms of crude, there are other illegal ways by which you can get cheap products. But when it comes to final product, I doubt. But let's wait to see where they can get cheaper final petroleum products. Two, when it comes to the lifting of the subsidies, I'm quite worried that the budget for the Petroleum Stabilization and Recovery Levy for 2022 was 269 million Ghana cedis. And by June, it raked in about 798 million Ghana cedis. That is excess of 529 million, unexpected amount. And they are telling us today that it is empty. then that implies that there is the need for serious investigation as to how the excess of 529 million Ghana cedis, even half year, has been used. It's very, very important. And therefore, the minority calling on the use of the price stabilization and recovery levy is not to reduce taxes. That must be put there clear. And my colleague made mention of consolidated fund. The oil revenue is not put in the consolidated fund. It goes to the petroleum holding fund and follow the necessary processes. So any government cannot just use the windfall the way they want to use it. This is an emergency and a needed intervention. Very important. Intervention is needed. And that is the intervention we ask of the government to do, not continuous subsidy, no. And not to reduce taxes. You have made some excesses from the petroleum sector, which are windfalls, and therefore use it to cushion. And that is the right thing to do. My brother Ofori made mention of the tax cut in UK. These are tax cuts. The minority is not asking of tax cut. And there was not only tax cut on the petroleum product. It was a sweeping tax cut across. And that has cost the Prime Minister and then the checker. In terms of Ghana, the minority is not calling on President Nana Akufo-Addo to cut taxes. We are saying that you have made excess in terms of oil export. For the first half of the year, you made 8.7 billion Ghana cedis. For the whole year in your budget, you estimated 6.6 billion. So even the half year, you have made 2.1 billion Ghana cedis excess. Please use it, part of it, to cushion as an intervention. So it is not like using your money that will be spent somewhere or in development projects to cut, to reduce petroleum pricing for the meantime. That must be made clear. For the removing, suspending, definitely the price of those fuel will go up, and it has its consequences on the economy, translate to final product, and inflation will continue to soar. And that is why even central bank interventions are not able to solve it. Because when the increment is as a result of fuel or energy, intervention by the tools of central bank cannot adequately address inflation rate. And we know, as I indicated, inflation is central to interest rates and depreciation of the cedi. Very, very central.
I'll come back to you on the finance minister and his role in all of this, even as we talk about inflation, the cedi's, current appreciation, but general depreciation against hard currencies across the world, and how this factors into the conversation. But let me bring in Benjamin Akakpo, who actually is Executive Director, Africa Center for Energy Policy. Mr. Akakpo, good morning.
Good morning, Ben.
Good. So 3 quick questions I want to run by you. First, the issue of windfalls, which you've heard us discuss, and what the way forward should be with what we've accrued, or what has accrued to us as a country. Then cheaper fuel, which our national team is out to secure for the country. And finally, transport fares that are running amok. I don't know whether you were listening when I was engaging Mr. Amo of the GPRTU, but now it appears they are not even going to engage, as always, maybe with government, with the tripartite committee and all of that. Once it increases, and this can be hourly, they also increase their fares. Quick reactions.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I think first on the windfall, from where I sit, there is no windfall anymore. Per the 2022 budget, the projected revenue, we would have exceeded it significantly by end of this year. But what the Minister of Finance did during the media review was to go back to Parliament and ask to use the windfall in the budget. So that has already been appropriated and consumed in the budget. So there is no windfall anymore. I mean, in March, we issued a statement asking for government to do what other countries were doing. Remember at the time, UK, Germany, even African countries were providing subsidies and tax rebates for consumers because the prices had hit in excess of $100 per barrel. And that was the time that we thought government needed to cushion consumers. That was not heeded to. Post that, the budget was revised and the projected windfall was consumed in the budget. So that number doesn't exist. And let's face it, I mean, we are told that government is broke. The president says we are in crisis. I wouldn't assume that there's money sitting anywhere at this point. We may call for accountability on how we are, where we are, but the reality is that there's no money sitting anywhere, which can be used from petroleum revenues to cushion consumers at this point. The issue about going somewhere to go and look for cheaper fuel, I think is a waste of our time. We are oil producers, right? I don't think anybody can come to Ghana and say, sell your product to us at a cheaper rate. It's not going to happen. If anybody at all agrees to give you a cheaper fuel, you must be trading something for that. What are you giving to deserve a rebate from anybody else's production or anybody else's refinery output? All right. So these are questions that we have to raise, and I have said that it appears we're looking for.
So for
a
you,
miracle.
it's simply not practical. It's simply not realistic. This whole bit about going to the UAE, Dubai specifically to get cheaper fuel.
Even if Dubai decides to give you a grant of say 1 cargo, what would that do to Ghana? Right? They can't give you a 1-year supply of reduced fuel. I mean, who offsets that? Some nations, for geopolitical reasons, may decide to give you a grant and say, okay, we're giving 1 cargo at a concessionary rate. If they give you crude, where are you going to refine it at this point? Even you have a refinery that has a mass capacity of 45, it can now do barely 20,000 barrels per day. So you don't even have the refining capacity to do cracking of the crude. Nobody will give you products at a discounted rate because they buy the crude and the margins are so low, maximum 1%, even if a company wants to do that. 1% reduction on the pump price today will mean nothing to anybody. So I don't think we should even, shore up the hopes of people that we're going to give them cheap fuel rather than doing the needful. If you track what has happened in the space, the past 30 days, we have seen international market price inching up about 5 to 6%, depending on where you're buying it. On the local market, we have exceeded 50%. So it tells you that our problem is not Dubai or Abu Dhabi or some sheikh sitting anywhere who owns oil. Your problem is your city. So the earlier we focus on, working on the city, the better it will be for everybody else. Otherwise, we are incurring further expenditures, sending people on a wild goose chase.
Finally, on the transport fare hikes, it appears now it's out of the hands of leadership because now the GPRTU and others, they are increasing on the go. So when fuel prices increase, they also increase. Samuel Amo of the GPRTU was telling me that, yes, they agreed on 19%, which they rounded off to 20%, but as of the last 2 days, with the latest increments, they have increased by another 20%, which means that in the last few days, the increment has been 40%. How do we get around that?
I think it's a market, right? They have to price per the market and its conditions. Everything is affected by petroleum product. It's not just the fuel they buy into their cars. It's the spare parts they buy, the engine oil, every other consumable is impacted once oil price, goes up. So you can't fault them for moving with the market. I think government intervention at this point, it's difficult to even prescribe to government because sometimes when they pick your policy, the way they treat it becomes another mess for us to even clean up. What we need to do really is to do targeting. It may be relevant even at this point to have a conversation, not just to tell the transport operators to, absorb the impact. They cannot, and they will run down their business. So you can do targeting and say, okay, these truck guys are the ones cutting workers and the poor from one point to the other. And therefore, we can decide to give them cash allowances or say maybe 50 cedis a day for the next 3 months to, offset some of their losses. that is possible, so that you make transportation available. You can also do mass transit, allow workers to board some buses for free at this point, so that they can move. Because not just petrol that's impacting them, the cost of living itself is so high that the average person in Ghana needs some cushioning. You don't want to do, a full-blown subsidy, which could become another albatross on the neck of the country by reducing the petrol prices across board. Because somebody running his V8 may have money to buy fuel without needing a subsidy in this critical moment. But you need to be able to identify those who are struggling at this time and cushion them.
Right.
And that is what policy should be seeking to do at this point, rather than saying that GPRTU don't increase, your fares. How do they run the transport business?
Okay.
Today in Accra, you see the difficulty even for a transport operator in Ghana is that, when prices are going up, you can even stand at one point in traffic and burn your fuel, just like that.
Okay.
Because of traffic management and all of it. So we have to do the needful, target and see how we can subsidize the people who really need it at this point.
All right. So I want to look at what the future holds, basically, on this trajectory, because it appears, inflation is still high up there. We're looking at the figure that will be put out for the month of October. The fuel prices, the top OMCs, they're still pricing very high and all of that. And I don't know whether Duncan and Kojo have reacted to the bit about cheaper fuel, because so far it's all negative, not positive. So as you deliver your final thoughts, I would like you to feed in cheaper fuel and the possibility of getting that. The transport fares, you've not got to react to that, Duncan, Kojo, and others, when it comes to what is being charged currently. And if you have any thoughts on the GMPC veering out of its target areas and spending on areas that supposedly are not its primary objective, you can feed into that. I'll start with you, Duncan Amwa.
Well, Ben, for me personally, I do not think we are fair to the transport operators. One, somebody has an input variable that is rising rapidly. And when they indicate the need to adjust, their revenue, then we say, come and sit and let us negotiate. Negotiate what exactly? So I think that if we are not in a position to control their cost variables, we shouldn't also be in a position to control their charges as well. I do not see where the transport sector itself is going. And so, Ben, I have often said the banks came in to invest heavily into our public transportation setup. Now, due to poor revenue generation from that sector, the ADB buses, the EcoBank buses you saw, they've all been phased out, and the banks are no longer excited to go back to the public transport space. And so that is how come you would continue to have very old, rickety vehicles that will continue to increase road traffic, accidents, and probably maim and kill people in the process. We should be fair to them. If we watch fuel prices go up in just one window between 25 and 32%, I don't think that it is any business of the government or any authority to go and call them and say, come and sit and let's negotiate 5%, 10%. I mean, what's the basis? But they are also to blame. You would need to have a scientific way of arriving at your cost per head per kilometer or cost per seat per kilometer, something. So that when it goes up, then you can sit in the studio and do the math and help them. Everybody knows what it means if your fuel prices or the cost of your other variables like the spare tires and, the things you buy from Abosokai, when there are significant price movements, we should be able to gauge and be able to determine public transport fares together. Unfortunately, we are still doing the very old things, which will not help in any investor wanting to put money in that sector. Let me come to the GMPC spending outside his mandate. I do think that one of the problems we've been confronted with as a country is where you put a few political appointees in certain spaces, and then the very core bit you expect them to do, they go and start thinking, oh, we should do other things, and then we all sit and clap for them. I'm surprised why up to this point, after 10, 11, 12 years of petroleum production, exploration and production, GMPC would find it necessary to be investing its funds, in festivals and astroturfs, when others are busy, investing in some of these drill ships and explorers and all of them. We are simply a people who have lost focus. And once that happens, in a space where GMPC is to have operated and made life comfortable for the 30 million Ghanaians, the GMPC money would simply be spent by less than 0.1% of the population. Less than 30 or 300 people will meet and decide what to do with the GMPC money, and that is fine by all of us. It is not fine. GMPC has a crucial role to play. Your delegates have moved now from Ghana to Dubai or UAE to say they are looking for cheaper fuel. If I were an Emirati and you come to me asking for cheaper fuel, the first question I'll throw to you, you also produce fuel, right? What are you doing with yours? Oh, we have a contract that says we should sell ours and we are selling for premium. And you are coming to me to sell mine cheaply. Look, they will come back empty-handed. I can, without blinking, say this. Something needs to be done. They need to show to Mr. President something is being done. But clearly, if this is all there is to it, no country that I know, aside Russia today, will probably want to trade their fuel cheaply when OPEC has indicated in their last general meeting that they are cutting back on production numbers. Right. The motive behind that is simply to drive prices upwards because their economies depend on petroleum revenues. You cannot go to any of them and say, look, sell to us your fuel cheaply because our economy is struggling. They will come back empty-handed, Benjamin. All right.
Duncan,
I'm afraid.
Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts. Executive Secretary of COPEC there, Duncan Amwa. Thank you so much for having joined the conversation. Kojo Poku, same question to you. Duncan thinks they'll come back. Our team that is in the United Arab Emirates will come back empty-handed. Your concluding remarks in some 2 minutes, if you can manage it.
When I talk
Kojo,
of
please
money
unmute.
going into... sorry?
I was asking you to unmute, but I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm saying that our brother Mutawakilu said something that I need to correct. He said that I mentioned consolidated fund. The annual budget fund allocation, which is the ABFA, goes into the consolidated fund. Now, if we're talking about windfall from petroleum products, we all know that all money goes into the petroleum holding fund. Okay, and from the petroleum holding fund, it is disbursed to GMPC and the government takes it into the consolidated fund. So if we know that the money is shared through the PRMA, then why is the minority holding press conference that the windfall should be spent to cushion Ghanaians when the minority themselves know that the money cannot be shared by cannot be used by government anyhow the government wants to cushion Ghanaians, but there's a law that governs how the money should be spent.
Okay, so points made on that.
I wanted to correct. Sorry?
So I'm saying points made on that. Your substantive.
Okay, so let me now go on to the issue of which one? The free fuel or the delegation going to Abu Dhabi?
So there's the delegation, and Duncan Amwa says they will come empty-handed. If you want to talk about the GMPC, you can also
listen. Ben, I've been doing this thing for 21 years, practically. I mean, Ben and Duncan are more academias. I mean, I Kojupoku, I've been doing this. Duncan will tell you he's a tractor driver, but I also been doing this oil and gas thing, traveling around the world, looking for deal for my oil block as far back as 2002. Look, there are even other challenges that comes with it. Let's even assume that they go and then the Abu Dhabi people tell them that they will give them a 30% discount on fuel. The first question I Kojupoku will ask is that, what did you promise them in return? Okay? Then let's give granted that you can tell me what you promised them, but they will give you fuel at 30% discount. The next question is that, how would you, the government, finance that lifting of products? Because we know that we are in a deregulated market and it's the private companies that finance products. And even the BDCs don't have money to finance the product. It's the banks that give them LCs. And at the stage we are in, banks don't even give LCs anymore. So the likes of BP, Vitol, Glencore, and Trafigura dump products in this market at a credit, okay? And that is how we get products into this country today. If any of these four companies, BP, Glencore, Vitol, and Trafigura, ask that we pay, they won't give us any more credit, Ghana will have 4 shortages. Okay, because the banks don't even have the appetite. And the last time I heard, there was this talk of single obligor limit for the banks because the price have gone so high. So look, to say it's a wild goose chase is at best, is even being kind. They are just going, I heard there's a conference going on in Abu Dhabi. That's why they all went. I didn't think they went purposely because of that conversation. There's a conference going on and they went to do that conversation. But if they did, I would want to petition the special prosecutor for charging them with causing financial loss to the state. The final part of the cheaper fares. Look, like Duncan said, it's very unfair that people are running their business and we tell them not to increase prices because we need to negotiate those prices. It's unfair, but at the same time, government wants to put the human face to it because that fares also affect the citizenry. There's a need to strike a balance. How much they charge, because this 2020 that they put on 40, based on what? Because that 40% GPRTU is asking, for me, is too high.
All right. Kojo Poku, always insightful hearing from you. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. He is an energy analyst. Let me bring in Adam Mutawakilu. Your final thoughts, comments on these issues we've been discussing. Mr. Mutawakilu, please unmute. Please push the unmute button. So
hello.
Yes,
can you hear me now?
Go ahead now.
Yes. I've spoken already in respect to the final product that the president said they will get cheap, and I said it won't be possible. And I want to tackle about GMPC. The issue of GMPC not concentrating on their core mandate has been a cause of worry in recent years. The issue of corporate social responsibility has overtaken their core mandate, and that is not good as a country and as a national oil company that have a mission of becoming a standalone operator and an international oil company in the near future shouldn't pursue such objectives. But the question I ask is that the current CEO and their management, are they doing anything to indicate that they will pursue their core mandate? I can categorically say no. In their recent board meetings, they've decided to increase their per diems by 40%. Their hotel bill was increased, hotel accommodation increased by 100%. The CEO spent 20 days out of 30 days in Ghana, 20 days outside the country in every month. I've monitored how much. Their board secretary, who used to come from the institution, has been hired and is being paid commercial rates. Apart from being paid commercial rate, he still travels on the ticket of GMPC. So if a CEO and the board starts this way, you can foresee the future of the national oil company. And that is quite worrying. So while the Ghanaian public and the parliament is much worried about the activities of GMPC, they themselves are not worried. And that is a big problem that we must begin to look into.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mutawakilu Adam, former Member of Parliament, Damango, for joining the conversation. Let me also bring in, at this point, Ben Wache to give your final comments.
Yeah, Ben, two quick things. The signal for the communication that government has put out is negative. And I think the earlier we try to amend that, the better it will be for the industry. I mean, I'm happy that Dr. Fori is on the call. The BDCs have been importing products into the country and taking on the risk with the FX, all right? So they need to speak to banks, get LCs, raise dollar to go and pay for the products that they import. If you are sending a signal to the OTCs who have been given products or credit lines to the BDCs that you are going to find some cheap product somewhere and come and sell on the market, they will be on the edge discussing any transaction with the BDCs. So you have injected so much risk into the business of the BDCs already. Because if you go to the OTC and say you want product on the credit line, and they also know that government is going to bring a cheaper fuel, they will be thinking whether they will get their money back. All right. So we need to really talk to industry and talk to the players to see whether government has a strategy that they can play along. Even if you want to consolidate all the imports and work with them to get some discount on the product, that could be a way to go. But to send people out there without engaging industry and put out an announcement that you're going to bring cheaper fuel, that is quite distortionary, and we shouldn't really entertain that. On the side of GMPC, I think we will have to have a bigger conversation about how the corporation has been functioning. Recently, we issued a report by ASEP and Imani where we cataloged some of the decisions that could end us into about $5 to $6 billion debt in the next short to medium term. We need to take a holistic look at it. It's not just the corporate social responsibility. Even their core operations are also suspect at this point. This year, 2022, GMPC is going to pay $52 million for no gas supply to Ghana because we have been warning since 2017 that we don't need LNG. And now the LNG facility is sitting in Tema and they are taking money. 2023, it could be inching circa 200 million a year on us and on the corporation. I mean, we need to take quick decisions to rescue the corporation from some of those decisions. And
right.
Just saying that they have to move away from out of focus operations to in focus. Even the focus operations have problems and how they are spending money at the corporation. So we need a broader conversation on how we refocus the corporation and also track expenditures and make sure that they are much more optimal.
Right. Benjamin Akakpo, thank you so much. Executive Director, Africa Center for Energy Policy. He just shared his thoughts. Finally, we'll take the thoughts of Dr. Patrick Ofori, CEO, Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. What are your concluding thoughts, sir?
Thank you very much. I think I would start from the possibility of the government having some form of targeted support for the transport operators so that at least the subsidy is not spread across those who can even afford it and those who are using those bigger engines. And I think in the first place, we are happy that the government has taken off the subsidies from the RFO, because having a subsidy on a product that the government, it will take the government about 6 or so months to pay. Apart from losing so much in terms of the depreciation of the cedi, you also risk losing your capital locking up in such transactions. So you realize not many of our members were willing and eager to even bring in such products to supply the market because of the complications of subsidy. With regards to the transport operators, I think maybe government can issue something like the fuel coupon like it's done in some countries, like the food coupons for some category of people who are in need, so that fuel arrangement could be linked between the transport operators and then maybe some selected OMCs, so that they know that they can coexist and then they pick some quantum of product at a certain discounted rate. And if we are all going to also be honest about such processes, it will ensure that at least some form of burden is taken over from the ordinary man on the street who is moving with his structure or going to use a passenger car. Another aspect that maybe we could do is looking at other forms of efficiency and then a public transport system that seek to address some of the congestion that Kojopoko and others spoke about. How do we ensure that the rail system and other forms of transportation, the public transport system is efficiently run and managed to ensure that passengers don't feel the full rigors of these commercial rates that are coming. As the most important and the critical aspect of us is what Mr. Boachi, Dr. Boachi said on the issue of government decisions to bring in cheaper fuel. We are more than willing and happy, at least the cheaper it is, the easier it is for us to maybe make some margins out of it, since in the last couple of trading windows, our members are actually bleeding and it's not been easy for them at all. the issue of the government communication and the strategy around it is something that I think we need to also engage government further, because allowing maybe IOTCs to bring the products in tanks here, we need to look at the tax implications. Once they are selling in country, are they going to take cedis from us, so that the risks of the forest, which is more or less our headache, how is it going to be eradicated? The issues of regulations, and then concepts like local content, and how do we also ensure we protect the turf of the local entrepreneurs who have also been in the system. The most sensitive part of this all is that now the IOTCs who are regular suppliers who have created these open lines are having some form of anxiety with regards to business continuity and the risk profile that goes out for them. But I think as we go along, we've already started some form of engagement with the key relevant stakeholders, and we want to shape whatever policy that government wants. We are more than willing to assist, so that the practicality of such interventions can really feel, since we are all feeling the heat from where we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ofori, for adding up your thoughts on this matter. He, of course, is CEO, Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. Now, we take a breather, but when we return, we'll be telling you about the Global Info Analytics and their latest report on voter impressions on the speeches of President Akufo-Addo and former President John Dramani Mahama in recent days and weeks. What has that revealed? We'll bring you the details right after the break. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. We now get into that national opinion poll by Global Info Analytics on voter impressions on the speeches of President Akufo-Addo and former President John Mahama in the last few days and weeks. Well, joining us for a conversation, we have Musa Dankwa, Executive Director, Global Info Analytics. Mr. Dankwa, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you too.
Thank you for joining the conversation. But just to set the tone for the conversation, I have just the right person. Isaac Kofi Ajay is standing by to break it down for us. Ike, so do the breakdown, but start, of course, with the methodology. How did Global Info Analytics even arrive by these data that they've put together?
Right, so in their recent opinion poll, they had to sample 1,407 respondents across all 16 regions. And they were able to put this together with confidence level of 99 and a margin of error of 3.4 plus or minus. And I want us to go through some of the questions that respondents were asked and then their response to this question. So they were asked a very simple question. Do you think the government is handling the crisis, the economic crisis, well? And we have 79% said no, they do not think that government is actually handling the crisis well. We have 20% responding that yes, government is handling the crisis well. 2% are somewhat indifferent about this question that was asked. But if you do further breakdown in terms of the political affiliation of this 1,407 respondents, and then the response they gave with respect to this very question, you realize that NPP respondents, about 68% of them said no, they do not think that the president is handling the economic crisis well. 30% responded that yes, they think that the president is handling the economic crisis well. If you go to that of NDC, the percentage of no now increases if you compare it to that of NPP from 68 now to 87. Just 12% of respondents who are NDC affiliated responded that they think that the president is actually handling the economic crisis well. We are also floating voters, about 81% of them responding no, and then also others 79%. Now, Ben, there's this question that I really want us to tackle. It's very interesting. It says that if you were to tell the government one thing that they could do to help you with the crisis, which of the following would you want them to address urgently? And interesting percentages we see over here. First one is stabilize the cedi against the major currencies. Very, very important because we've seen, World Bank and Bloomberg all tagging the cedi as a worst performing currency globally. And so we have 35% of them responding that, yes, they believe that if you stabilize the cedi, it will give us some sort of, stability in the economy and also reduce taxes on fuel. So as we speak, the price build-up on fuel, taxes alone is about 3 cedis. 27% of the respondents believe that if government is able to reduce taxes on fuel, this will really help to address the situation. Stabilize prices of goods. Yes, 34%. We know that there have been calls for us to use the price stabilization and recovery levy money to actually stabilize price of fuel as well to help consumers in terms of giving them some cushion as far as this current economic situation is concerned. There are calls from certain quarters of the president to step down. Do you support this call? And we have 54% say yes, they support this call for the president to step down. 40% say no, and 6% are indifferent about this question. And if you look at the political affiliation of this question, you can actually see the disaggregation. NPP members, 66% of them say yes, the president should step down. No, the president should step down, shouldn't step down, and 29% said yes, the president should step down. If you look at NDC, if you're comparing the yeses, NDC is about 78%, whilst 18% said no, the president should not step down. Now there's also this question, voters' impression about the president and former President John Dramani Mahama's speech. So they were making comparative analysis between the two speeches given by these presidents, the president and former president. So they were asked, what they were asked about, some of their impressions about the speeches. The first thing is, do you think that it created any inspiration as far as both speeches are concerned? If you look at John Dramani Mahama, 37% said yes, they feel former president's speech gave some inspiration. 12% for current president, President Akufo-Addo, 12% said they feel that his speech gave some form of inspiration. Uninspiring, 25% for Nanado and 9% for John Dramani Mahama. Addressed the issue, 22% said yes, they feel President Akufo-Addo's speech addressed the issue. But if you go to that of John Dramani Mahama, 38% said yes, they feel that his speech actually addressed the issue. Did not address the issue, more or less like having the same percentage if you look at the other way around for NDC. 38% for President Akufo-Addo and then 11% for the former President John Dramani Mahama. Do you support the call for the president to step down? Speech impression. Call for the president to step down. This is I'm sure is address the issues, did not address the issue, and you see the percentages over there. I saw one that I really want us to look at.
Is it about which of the two gave you hope? Is that the one? So I think you would have to, yes,
this one, right?
That's
yes,
the one.
Yes.
Right.
So if you listen, watched or heard the speeches of His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo and John Dramani Mahama, which of them gave you hope as a Ghanaian? Yeah, let's look at it. No hope, 2%. Both
That's
of them,
no opinion.
No opinion, sorry, 2%. Both of the speeches gave some hope, 11%. Nana Akufo-Addo's speech gave hope, 16%. None of them, 15%. John Dramani Mahama's speech gave hope, 56%. So there you have it. You can see the huge variation between when respondents were asked which of the speeches gave you hope. The variation between Nana Akufo-Addo and then former President John Dramani Mahama.
Isaac Kofi there, always good to have you. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us. But let's come into the studio now with Musa Dankwa, who is Executive Director, Global Info Analytics. First off, even as a sampler or one who conducts such surveys, you must have some expectations when you go. I mean, you want to have a tabula rasa, but you're a human being. You have expectations. Did anything coming out of this latest report surprise you?
No.
Nothing?
No. Because the build-up to this point had been the October poll. The warning signs have been there, and nothing has improved. So we didn't expect anything different from what we knew already in October.
But it appears things are getting progressively worse.
Yes, absolutely. And we've seen that consistently.
Let's talk about those respondents who want the president to step down. It's a call that has come up in recent times. Those who are talking about the fact that there's non-performance and so the president should step down. I remember in previous polls there was some angst against the handling of the economy and all of that. So let's first, maybe even before we get to the president's stepping down based on party affiliations and the rest, let's look at what people's major concerns are. And we took a look at that table. So you would realize that first on the list is the stability of the cedi against major currencies. Then there is the issue of stabilizing the prices of goods, which is second. Then we have reduction on taxes of fuel, third, and others, 4%. All of them are tied to inflation. All of them are somewhat tied to the cedi.
Yeah. I mean, it is very clear.
What does this show? What does this even?
I mean, they are telling the government what they should be doing. And they've done none of these, to be very honest with you. Personally, I believe that within the price stabilization levy that we have, the government has ability to control something. If you look at the taxes on fuel, they can introduce a bill in Parliament to cap those taxes. Because they may have made already the windfall that they were expecting in the budget. So how can they release back that windfall to the taxes, for the taxpayer to get a bit of cushion? So I think they are giving the government some kind of direction as to what they should be doing. Sometimes you have to listen to the voters. And I believe that the government will have a listening ear. This is what people are saying. Once we begin to act this way, you'll get a positive response from the voters.
Now let's look at, addressing the economy. These same issues that we speak of, even before we get to the credibility ratings and the rest. We've heard from both, the former president and the current president in recent times. And it is interesting. When you look at that chart that was put forth by, discussed by Isaac Kofi-Adjei, 2% had no opinion. But look at the gap. Both of them, shared something that gave hope, 11%. But then when it comes to the president and what he said, 16% versus, or put side by side with the former president, John Mahama, at 56%. Of course, 15% of them had no opinion on the matter, or said none of them actually had given hope. How interesting is that? A sitting president addresses the country a few days after a former president addresses the country, but per this poll, almost 40% less feel the president gave hope, and about 40% more feel the former president, who is not in power, gave hope.
I think this points to one thing, that from the data, you could say that John Mahama may be the president in waiting.
Is that not a bit too early, a bit
I said from the poll.
From the poll?
Yes, you could say.
Yes, but even reading from the poll, even looking at your margin of error and everything.
The gap is so huge. You shouldn't have...
40%.
Yes, you shouldn't have citizens looking up to the position for direction or for hope when they're not in power. They have to work hard on that.
But any opposition is also a government in waiting, so to speak. So wouldn't you say that people are simply venting because maybe the system is not delivering, like on the cedi, on fuel stability in terms of pricing, and on the pricing of general goods like this is reviewed?
It is this kind of feeling that increases the probability of him winning the elections. The less that probability it is, the less likely he will be the president. So once these numbers are looking very bad, it's pointing to one thing. And unless that is reversed, it's going to have these high numbers poll after poll.
And that is also reflective in what we're seeing currently. Do you think government is handling the economic crisis well? And it's stark. It is interesting because 79%, almost a fourth of those you polled are saying no. 20% say yes, and 2% are hanging somewhere in the middle with no opinion.
It's kind of unanimous across general voters, really. They're saying that the government is not doing well at all in handling the crisis. And I think they must listen, and probably listen very well. Once they're able to turn around these numbers, I think the poll numbers will turn in their favor.
Even when you look at the party breakdown when it on the data, you would realize that MPP supporters who think the country is headed in the right direction or that the crisis is being handled well, even for MPP, only 30% say yes. 68% say no. That I found interesting. For the NDC, well, 12% say yes, 87% say no. For others, 18% say yes, 81% say no. And then that is for floating voters, and then we have others as well. But for me, my focus is on the MPP, those who claim they are MPP, and the sort of responses they were giving. I found that rather interesting.
I think they are being real. I mean, here, people are not being partisan here. Everybody is feeling the pinch, whether you are an NDC voter, MPP voter, or a floating voter, and they are speaking from how things are happening in this country, and they have to be factual, and that's what they are saying.
Which also reminds me of the Afrobarometer, just to chip it in, because in recent times, they also came out with a report asking people whether the country was headed in the right direction. And it's a similar outcome because 87.5% said no, the country was not headed in the right direction.
Those poll numbers need to improve for the government. That level is unsustainable.
How can the government do that?
It's about taking actions. You see, I think what people are kind of reflecting in the polls is lack of concrete actions from the government, visible and tangible, ones that really demand the government take steps that they wouldn't otherwise take. And they haven't seen them do that. You agree with me that there has been a call for the government to slash the size of government. That hasn't happened. And for people to trust that you are doing something, this low-hanging fruit has to be harvested.
So let's look at, when you look at the executive summary, so you conducted this poll and then you looked at, on the call for the economic management team led by the vice president to be replaced following the economic crisis. 78% of respondents supported the call, 18% did not support it, and 4% did not have an opinion. Then, when respondents were asked how they received the president's speech, we've taken a look at that. And then, on whom respondents trusted to better manage the crisis if elected. That's another interesting point I think we could wrap up on.
Okay.
43% of respondents backed John Mahama, 17% Alan Chabating, 14% Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, and 8% Kennedy Ejapong, with 1% backing Dr. Kwabena Dufour, who is also of the NDC stock, and 19% preferring someone else. Let's break that down a bit.
Right. Now, the interesting data lies in the party affiliation of how people are voting. Now, majority of Ghanaians or voters that we interviewed think that John Mahama will be the best person to handle this crisis if elected today. That's their view today. Followed by Alan, and then Dr. Bawumia, and then Kennedy Ejapong. If you look at the party affiliation of MPP, how they are voting, 10% of MPP supporters want Mahama to lead.
10% of MPP supporters. Acclaimed MPP supporters.
Yes.
All right.
And then 44% of them said Alan.
Okay.
Then you have 26% saying Bawumia.
Okay, so that's quite a gap.
Yes.
Even from MPP stock,
Yes.
in terms of whom they would want to lead
the
country.
That's where I was.
10% going to John Mahama, but then over 40% to Alan Chabating,
Yes.
and only 26 or so percent to the vice president.
Yeah.
Right.
It shows you how the ground is moving within the MPP as who they think should handle this crisis. And that could feed into the primaries of the MPP.
That's an interesting bit because the vice president is head of the economic management team. And so maybe some of the flack that this government is getting is affecting him in terms of his prospects of getting the flag bearership slot.
Now, if you look at when we ask people whether that team should be scrapped, about 78% said yes. And this is majority across all party lines. Most MPP supporters want the EMT to be stood down. Same goes to NDC supporters, floating voters, and other voters. So there's an unanimity across the voting bloc that the EMT should be stood down.
All right, so 30 seconds, final words as we wrap the conversation.
I think the presidency must take these poll numbers very critically. It should influence what goes into the speech and be able to connect very well with voters, because you can't have a speech delivered and not have an impact. So they should be looking at why it wasn't well received. What can we do better next time so that we can really connect to the voters? Thank God this time around there is data that is given in real time. They don't have to wait 6 months down the line. They can fix the problem as and when the data comes out.
All right, and just to give you this background as we go, For those who were polled, 30% were NPP, 31% were NDC, and for floating voters, another 31%, with 7% being others, 1% claiming to be members of the CPP, and 1% for the PPP. So this then definitely gives quite a proportion to both the NDC, the MPP, and of course adding the floating voters. Musa Dankwa, thank you for joining us on this conversation. Musa Dankwa is Executive Director, Global Info Analytics. There's a lot more coming your way on the AM show. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Well, let's tell you about Faytex International and their products, and they also have sanitary pads and toilet rolls. Well, we're telling you a bit more about that because they're right here in the studio. In fact, Bright Kobina Essien is Director of Finance and Strategy with Faytex International Limited. Thank you so much, Kobina, for joining us in the studio.
You're welcome, my brother.
So tell us about Faytex International. You've been around for a while, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about your group.
Okay, so the name is Fay International.
Fay International,
yes.
Right.
Fay International has been in Ghana for the past 43 years. We are known for producing and manufacturing of maternity pad. In the earlier days, we were doing the maternity pad, what is used for delivery. We were doing that. We were doing loo paper or toilet roll. We were doing baby diaper. We were doing adult diaper. We're doing all sorts of products in the same industry. So for the past 43 years, Ghanaians have really felt Fay International. We've delivered a lot of children here because of how organic our products are. I think it's a midwife choice. Yeah.
So it's been quite a transition over the decades and over this period that you've been working. But why the switch from sanitary pads to toilet roll and the rest?
Okay, let me say that it's not necessarily a switch. We used to.
You're still doing.
We used to, and then we had some challenges for over the years, and then we have to sit back, and then think about what we bring that is not on the market. We are known for our unique and organic features, so we are actually reintroducing what we used to do in the early 90s, but in a very different form.
So what exactly is the strategy then? Are you going to be focusing more on toilet roll now?
Yeah, it's one of our strategic areas. We are going to focus more on toilet roll, and we have other products we'll be bringing, but we call it our secret product.
Your secret product?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We'll be talking about this product that you have here, your toilet roll, made of bamboo. But interestingly, do you know how much we spend as a country every year bringing in toilet roll, tissue, and the rest? Though we have homegrown entities, do you know how much we spend? About $100 million. So that's quite, an industry you find yourselves in, and the market is big. Yeah. Recently, Mr. President was saying that we should cut off some of these imports and, try to produce them locally and export as well. So it's quite a market you find yourself in. But let's look at this toilet roll. It's interesting because the toilet paper looks brown.
Yeah.
My director felt it before we came on air, and it's rather soft, surprisingly. It's made of bamboo, right?
Yes, it's made of bamboo. At Fay International, we believe that our local products, our raw materials that we have here, we can transform them into a finished goods. And it's not just a matter of the transformation, but it's more sustainable as a product. And it's also eco-friendly because I think when you read some write-ups from the UN on global warming, environmental challenges that we are having, cutting down of normal trees, which is used for the wood pulp, has rather been reduced. So we as an organization, we are more strategic, and we felt that we should use what we have and to produce something more superior. I think when you go to the European market, bamboo products are very, very expensive because of its nature. it has a lot of characteristics that the normal wood product does not have. Example, is highly biodegradable, is environmental friendly. If you bury a bamboo on the ground, give yourself some few days, you go and you wouldn't find it again. I mean,
oh, wow.
A bamboo product, yes. If you bury it in your garden, give yourself some few days, you go and you wouldn't find it again. Because
it just becomes another component in the soil.
Yes, that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have it in abundance here. So for us as an organization, we felt we are trying to be highly compliant with the directives of the president, and also looking at what nature can offer us for the good of the whole country.
Mm. So you're basically, hinging on what Mr. President has said. You're latching onto it, and of course you have this wonderful product here. But tell me, the coloring is a little queer. You know how our system is. People see, everyone is used to white. Yeah. Why this color?
Actually, that's the natural color of a bamboo.
Right.
So if I could make reference to toothpick, you see that it's brownish because it's at its organic state. We've not bleached it, we've not done anything to it. So I think we shared even a video of the process that we go through to bring it. I don't know whether your team has it. It's quite interesting, and it's something that you would love to see, because right from harvesting, we put it into the mill, we grind it, then it comes out as a pulp like this, and then we'll just cut it and then bag it and bring it to the market. So in terms of the color, that's the original color of bamboo.
Mm. And so it's merely reflecting the coloring of the natural or the raw product, which is bamboo.
Yes.
How do you get your bamboo? Where do you source it from? Do you have a farm? Because I know certain places where you would find a lot of bamboo. How do you source your raw product?
Okay, so the Feites Bamboo Toilet Roll is a whole project. We work with our partners. It started more than 2.5 years ago.
Right.
The strategy is, I don't know whether I'm selling my business, but it's interesting. We have to source for farmers and give them seedlings to plant the bamboo. And we have to do a lot of research and development into this, because it's not any other bamboo. It's specific species of the bamboo that we use. And that's our trade secret.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Once you know what you're doing and it's coming out with this fabulous product. But where can people get some to buy if they wanted to get the Feites toilet roll or Fei International's bamboo toilet roll? Where can they get some?
Okay, so currently we are trying to source distributors across the country. But if somebody wants to buy Feites bamboo toilet roll, immediately the person can call Fei International on 0302 224843. 0302 224843. That's the Accra office. And then we are also in Kumasi. You can call Success Magnet. They are distributors of our products. That's 0550 000 990. 0550 000 990. And if you are interested in distribution, you can call me personally on 0244 310 620. 0244 310 620. And when you find yourself around Eastern region in Koko precisely, you can call Kwadisco. And Kwadisco is a name that everybody knows. So if you go and you ask for Kwadisco, he's also distributing our product at Nkoko.
All right. If right before you go, if I asked you, what is the one unique thing about Feites toilet roll, your bamboo toilet roll, what would you say?
Feites bamboo toilet roll is very soft. It's organic. It's done under hygienic condition. And I think that is what most customers will love. It's highly economical.
Highly economical.
Highly economical.
Bright Kobina, SCN, is Director of Finance and Strategy with Fei International Limited, which gives us the Feites toilet roll, bamboo, toilet roll. Thank you so much, Commander.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Do stay, water is life, and water regulates your body temperature and helps keep you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes to fit all your uses. 330 ml, 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more, like me. We've introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes as well. Now you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab a bottle of Awake Water and get quality hydration fit for your pocket. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Kasap Preco. For bulk purchases, please call 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. So obviously we're proffering for you Fatex bamboo toilet roll and of course Awake drinking water. But staying safe and ensuring that all safety precautions are taken both at home and at work is not by chance. It requires conscious effort from everyone. The 2022 edition of the National Intermines First Aid and Safety Competition is here again. Winners of the zonal competitions, Ghana Manganese Company, Perseus Mining Ghana Limited, Golden Star Wassa Resources, and Goldfields Ghana Takwa Mines will battle it out. They'll be slugging it out at the national level this Sunday, 6th November 2022 at 11 a.m. It will be broadcast live on GTV and JoyNews. Students from the host communities will also participate in an essay competition. Winners of this contest will be rewarded at the Ghana Mining Industry Awards to be held on the 2nd of December 2020. The competition is designed to demonstrate knowledge in mining regulations and first aid measures in times of accidents, both at home and at work. So choose to stay safe and not live by chance. This message is brought to you by the Ghana Chamber of Mines in collaboration with the Minerals Commission and the St. John Ambulance Ghana, and endorsed by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. We'll be right back after our break. Welcome back on the AM show, and of course we have more business coming your way, more things that will excite you, and we're about to talk about Electroland HD Plus. Well, HD Plus has introduced a new device called the HD Plus CI Plus. What's that? It's a module that allows users of NASCO TVs to access the HD Plus service without the need for a decoder. Oh, you think it's not possible? Well, we have the team right here in the studio to give us further details on that. Roddy Quay is Product Manager, HD Plus. We also have Michael Hornsby, Technical Coordinator, HD Plus. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Roddy and Michael, the person who shares my name without knowing it. All right, so let's start with, we all know HD Plus, but now you say HD Plus, plus CI Plus. This looks like a chemistry, something out of a chemistry book. Roddy, what is all of this, HD Plus, CI Plus?
Well, I mean, HD Plus, we always want to be the game changer in the TV viewing experience. And we currently have the set-top box in the market, which is giving access for you to watch all the encrypted 19 HD channels. And apart from that, you're able to watch additional free-to-air, almost about 150 channels, even when your subscription has expired. Besides that, we also have one of our flagship products, which is the integrated TV. We partner with Samsung, and it allows you to watch HD Plus on your Samsung TV without even necessarily having a decoder. Apart from that, we also have what we call My HD Plus app, which gives you access to watch all your HD channels, even when you are not in the house.
So you can use your gadgets?
Absolutely.
To actually follow through?
Absolutely. You just have to download it on your phone, whether iOS or Android device. I mean, you can have access to that. But what we've done now is that we've introduced a new product, which is the CI Plus.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so the CI Plus is basically, we collaborate with NASCO devices, and all NASCO users, NASCO TV users can just slot the CI Plus model at the back of their compatible NASCO devices.
Like a pen drive or something?
Yeah,
like
this is how it looks like.
It's
just a very cute
let me
card like this.
Okay.
Yes. So once you slot it at the back.
So I keep this, right?
Absolutely.
I'm just kidding.
I can give you one anyway.
Okay, so you slot it through?
Yes.
Is this the
at the
HDMI
back.
or something?
No, the good thing is that it do away with HDMI. So with this, you don't need to have HDMI cables or aux cables and all that. You just keep your TV on, your hall very clean. You don't need to connect any HDMI. So with this, you slot it at the back of your NASCO compatible TV.
Okay, so that is the slot right there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you get access to all the HD Plus 19 HD channels. And as the World Cup is just around the corner, you get the opportunity to watch the Philly experience of the soccer.
Philly. I thought you would say something.
Oh, of course, Philly, in the film. So you can get to see it on channel 150, which is one of the HD Plus sports channels that you can see. Yeah.
Okay, so let me come to you, Michael. How do you install CI Plus apart from what we've been told?
Yeah, thank you very much. So basically, just like what indicated, the CI Plus, the meaning is Common Interface Plus, right?
Oh, it's CI now.
Common interface.
That's a common interface.
Common interface, yes. Oh. So now what we need, what you need to get this model working, you need a compatible TV, which is the NASCO TV set. Okay. Now, the NASCO TV is an integrated digital television, which basically means it has a decoder already embedded in the TV, right? So the decoder will scan the channels. And mind you, you need to have your satellite installation, which means you need a satellite dish, which is pointing to satellite that is the Astra 12 28.2 degrees east. Popularly called as a multi-TV.
Don't mind the technical terms. They will sort it.
Yes, indeed. Popularly known as multi-TV platform or multi-TV satellite, right? Okay. So you point to that direction, you connect your LNB cable or your coaxial cable at the back of your TV, and then you scan the channels, you enter the HD plus frequencies, you scan the channels, you have your channels, but it is encrypted, which means you cannot look at it. Now this module, the CI Plus model, has the access or the permissions so immediately you slot into the TV, then you can decrypt the channels. Now, if you buy the NASCO TV, it is bundled with the CI Plus model. So you get either 1 month free, or 3 months free package or subscription, depending on the size of TV you buy. So for instance, if you get a NASCO TV 75-inch, you get 3 months subscription free. Yes, you get 3 months.
Why do you have to do it like that? So if someone gets 50-something, it will be what, 1 month?
It also gets 3 months. Yeah.
3 months.
3 months. Yeah. So the bigger size, the size of the bigger size TV you get a more subscription. It's simple as that.
So I'm guessing 32 inches you get one.
So yes, indeed. So you insert the model into the TV. Now you have to activate this CI Plus model. You simply dial the USSD shortcode of HD Plus, that is the *879#. You enter one to proceed. And then also you enter one to activate the device. You have the HD Plus number at the back of the module here. Okay. There are 12-digit numbers. You enter the numbers. You activate the model. Your channels, you're good to go. Your channels begin to decrypt.
If anyone is installing and faces any problems, what do they do? How can they reach you? I mean, how can you assist?
Yeah. So basically, you can contact our customer service. That is 024-243-9872. 024-243-9872, or you can get any certified HD Plus installer or multi-TV installer to assist you to do the installation. Yeah.
Okay, and where can people get the CI Plus ready?
Yes, for the CI Plus, any Electroland selected outlet in Spinters, the Ring Road, those are areas.
Yeah, you have one right on the Ring Road.
Yes, absolutely.
That one I know.
Yes. You just walk in there, then you can get the CI Plus model. Or you can even call us on we have a call center number that you can reach out to, which is the 0242-43987. Then you can direct you to any nearby EGL that you can get a CI Plus model.
Okay. Yep. So if I wanted one and I went to your Ring Road office right now, I'd be able to get it?
Absolutely. You'll be able to get it, yeah.
Okay.
But there's one important thing that I want to say. This is the benefit of this CI Plus, because currently, if you have the CI Plus, one will be wondering, why do I have to get a CI Plus but not a set-top box? The advantage is that, in fact, there are so many advantages, but I will just, in the interest of time, I will just highlight about 4 of them. One is that you get access to extend your TV service to your mobile phone. So in this case, you get the credentials to log into your mobile app, which I mentioned earlier, and then you get a free data too as well. Okay? Yeah, I mean, as long as your subscription is active, you get to access it 12 hours every month as well. Apart from that, we currently have a 4K platform. There's a 4K channel that is only as, I mean, HD Plus that is.
And this is viewer quality you're speaking.
Absolutely. Right? That is 7 times more clearer than even the HD. So you get access to watch this 4K channel with your CI Plus. As long as your NASCO TV is compatible with 4K, you get access to that. And then you also get to, I mean, as Michael mentioned, depending on the size of your TV, you get 3 months subscription free or 2 months subscription fee as well. So these are some of the benefits you get with the CI Plus model without worrying about HDMI cable too.
All right. Final words for both of you, 20 seconds. I'll start with you, Mike.
Well, I mean, just walk through any AGL outlets, ask for your NASCO TV. It's bundled with your CI Plus model. You just get home, install your satellite dish, and you are good to go. Activate your model, and you get your free subscription. Right. You have access to your mobile, the HD Plus mobile app, and then you'll be able to stream or watch your TV, and also watch your mobile, the channels on your mobile phone.
All right. For you, Mike. Roddy?
Yeah, so my final was is that just as the World Cup is just coming, make sure you get CI Plus model and then bundle with your NASCO TV and get to watch the World Cup feely. And this will be on channel 150 GTV Sports HD.
All right, so let's do this one more time as we wrap the conversation. Feely. So that is Roddy Quay, product manager, HD Plus. We also had Michael Hornsby joining the conversation with the same outfit. And that's how we wrap the conversation this morning. But it's a fun-packed weekend awaiting you this and every Sunday on Joy Prime as we thrill you with an awesome experience with the latest and most captivating quiz show, Step Up, and the most loved cooking show for kids, The Big Chef. Tune in every Sunday at 5 p.m. for The Big Chef to experience our contestants prepare delectable dishes as they compete for the ultimate prize of 10,000 Ghana cedis and unbelievable prizes from sponsors. And your day cannot end without watching Step Up at 7:30 p.m. Make time to watch contestants meet host and DJ George Quay and Mercury Quay, respectively, the two Quays, to dance their way through answering interesting questions to win a whopping sum of 5,800 Ghana cedis, plus a fun trip to Dubai. Every week comes with doses of surprises in the Big Chef kitchen and on Step Up as contestants display their exceptional culinary skills, knowledge on various subjects. Viewers at home can also win some prizes on Step Up. So stay glued to Joy Prime for the double dose every Sunday at 5 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. for the ultimate experience on the Big Chef and Step Up. Step Up is brought to you by Glovo and Adanse Travels, and the Big Chef is kindly brought to you by Fortune Rice, Phytol Sunflower Oil, Indomie Top Choco, Flora Tissues, Low Price Master, Sankofa Natural Spices, City Black Tonic, Perk Biscuits, and Karen Mouthwash. On that note, we'll also celebrate some birthdays. James Clark Hayford of the Institutional Advancement Officer. You are actually Institutional Advancement Officer of the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Sunyani. Today is your birthday. Happy birthday to you. God bless. On that note, me Johnny Friha, Studio Nayashi. Up next, Joy News at Desk. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Do enjoy the rest of your day.